live, but I will be any moment.
Why aren't you going live?
I am now.
Are you?
It's telling me I'm live, but I never quite believe it until I see numbers moving. So if I am live, hello. Otherwise, I'm going to wait for a couple of seconds. Right, now I really believe it. It tells me lies every now and then. So hello, good evening and welcome. I can see you in the chat, so let me go right back to the top of it. Who's done their homework? Oh, wow, there's a lot of chat. Right, let me go right back to the top. Good evening, Johnny. Johnny's got to be first. Johnny was first. Hello, Paul. And Mike. Yes, you are moving, Mike. It's fine. They'll hear you shortly. Hello, Neil. Oh, it must be silly o'clock there. If not tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think. Hello, Graham. Hello, Deb. Oh, Neil, don't mention the 58-minute walk about a walkout. Oh, no, it's all over the place, that. I can't see it myself, but you never know. Hello, Kim. Paul, have you caught up? Have you caught up with the Notion thing? Yeah, it's awful weather here. It's just yuck.
It's not bad. It's dry.
It's drizzly. It's still drizzly. Don't like it drizzly. Right, I'm live. Excellent, excellent.
Johnny's had a nap.
Has Graham got a leak?
He has. He's sprung a leak.
Oh no, plumber's on the cards. Yeah, we keep thinking about it with a
Alex
plumber.
wants to know how many pennies it costs.
How many pennies what costs?
I wondered that. I've had to look at the thread. All these light bulbs.
The light bulbs. Ah, the light bulbs.
I don't know if Alex is in.
Hello, Clyde. Good to see you. The light bulbs. Right. If it is the light bulbs, there's a funny story with the light bulbs. I bought an Alexa. This is not unusual. The house is riddled with them. And it was a special deal and it came with a bulb. Why isn't my light coming on? There's my light. Right. Came with a bulb. Thing was, it didn't fit any of the sockets. So I left it there and I left it there ages. Oh, 11 o'clock. That's not good, is it? Not the time we finish. Hopefully you'll be able to follow along on catch up. And
Alex is in.
yes, the light bulbs. Okay. So it came with a light bulb and it looked a very nice light bulb. It was a Philips Hue light bulb, which is one of the best brands you can get. The only problem was it didn't have the right fitting. So I thought, well, that's no good, not unless I change the fitting. So I left it on the shelf for like 8 or 9 months. And then suddenly one day I thought, do you know what? I need to have a look at that light bulb. I don't know why it came to me. I call it a light bulb moment. Sorry about that. And I got the light bulb out and I thought, well, at this stage I realised I couldn't change the fitting. So I thought to myself, if I can't change the fitting, what can I do? And I came up with an alternative. I got that bulb installed day one, and then the next day more light bulbs arrived because we like them. So more on the light bulbs later, Alex. Right, so we're all in. We're all in, are we? We're all good to see what we've got on tonight. So let me cut
Paul's
to...
not in, but he might be on call.
And... No, he's gone out.
Oh, he has.
Paul, I know Pete, you mean.
Pete.
Pete's gone out to a Burns night. More on Burns nights later. No, who was it I was thinking of? Carl! It's Carl's birthday, so I doubt Carl will be with us live. But if you're catching up on catch-up, happy birthday, Carl. Right, so I need to do that so you can see my desktop. And then I need to do other magic so you can see other things. And then we should be good to go. So... I need to check that I have actually started everything. Be good if I had, wouldn't it? I clearly haven't started that one on there. But never mind. Continue. Go on, you know you want to, really. Oh, for crying out loud. Have you ever had one of those days? What? You're staring at my desktop. That's not good. Let me get you staring at something else while I fight manfully with the tech yet again. Right, what's causing me a problem this time is I'm trying to do the other camera in case there's a syncing calamity. And it's causing me grief. It's telling me there's no camera there. And I know it's lying. I know it's lying because I can see the camera. So, let me see what's going on with this. Record from camera. It's there, I can see it. Go on, continue. You see, it is lying to me. Right, so what have we got tonight? That's the most important thing, isn't it? Lots of Notion. Because you've been very good with your homework in the week. I mean, I'm impressed. I'm very impressed. So what we've got tonight, we are going to look at what we've been up to this week. Loads. Some of it you played along with live last Saturday. Then we're looking at an app called Power Photos. Then we had some questions about something that I very briefly mentioned last week. How I sorted out Edge. In terms of how I got access to my bookmarks, because I don't bother with the bookmarks. So I got about 3 or 4 questions about that, so I'll show you how I actually do it. Then we've got creating your Notion weekly page. Now, some of you have been so diligent with your homework, and they are beautiful. I'm impressed. Others are struggling manfully. That's because we hadn't actually got round to that bit of it, but we'll do that bit tonight before the freebies. Then I'm handing over to Mike while he does some ninja work in the printing department. And then we're going into the third part of Notion 2020. So we're extending the system tonight. Oh, we've got notes, we've got meeting notes, we've got meals. It'll be fabulous. And then we've got an unboxing of sorts. I'll just leave that one hanging. Right, make sure you are watching in HD. We broadcast in HD. The cog is in the lower right-hand side of your screen. Can't tell my left from my right tonight. Make sure that it says HD. And we'll get on to the week at Matt Bites headquarters. Well, last Saturday, we were heading out. A lot of you know this. If you're in the Slack channel with us, and if not, why not? mattbites.co.uk/Slack. Questions were asked while we were out, and we were busy answering them. Wouldn't be doing that last night, would we? But that's a totally different story. So we'd gone out. That was our table, the bunny hop. What was some of the others? Was it the jive?
Yeah.
The jive. Oh, Jitterbug. Jitterbug was one. But ours was the bunny hop. I was less focused on that than you might imagine, wasn't I, Mike? He can't remember now. No, he's all confused. Yes, I sat down and apparently I'd missed the wedding. So who knew? Clearly they knew something I didn't know. But never mind, I didn't take offence. There was another lady at our table and she was worse off than I was. Her name was Margaret and her card said Mary. So we don't know what her husband had been up to. Least said the better, probably. Oh, somebody. Oh, he does like a dance. You like a bop, don't you, Mike? Okay. And Kenny, our DJ for the night, we've had Kenny quite a few times. I'm not going to say any more than that, am I, Mike? But we've had Kenny a few times. And Mike was up here, you'll notice, the guitar playing. Oh, yes. He put on Mike's favourite, which is The Summer of '69. Did Mike do the bunny hop? Mike did all kinds of things. Not many of them you could put an actual name to. Now, that lady over there, not me. No, I was busy taking the video. Thus, he had pulled as well, which I'm assured is an international term. You will know exactly what I mean. No, bless him. She got up specially to dance with you, didn't she?
She did?
Yes. She must have liked your moves. Then it was on to Sunday. Oh, and talk about the morning after the night before. Busy, busy, busy day. Seriously busy day. Starting with the Brew Boys. The Brew Boys were in town again. Look at him there with his milk. You had quite a good turnout for the Brew Boys, didn't you? And now, once they'd brewed and sorted everybody out, I'm seeing there's a lot of tea all over that table, by the way, Mike. That'll be Jed. Mike got co-opted in to... what I'd done was, I always do a Facebook Live to a private group that we've got for Brooklands. And I'd done this Facebook Live, and one of them said, I never see it. Yeah, he hadn't actually joined the group. So Mike decided to do some impromptu tech support. At which point, you got doorstepped, didn't you? Somebody else saying, what are you doing? So it was a good morning. But I did promise, I made promises. Johnny, The Summer of '69 is a classic. You just need to see Mike doing it on video. Oh, yes. We need an after hours live, don't we? A live meet-up. Yeah, well, see, Johnny's close enough. We'd have to drag Graham here. And, of course, Neil, it might take a lot longer. And all our American friends. But, hey, it would probably be worthwhile. I promised you a photo. Not of the cake. No, because I don't eat the cake. You said, what would I have? And I said, well, I would probably go for the ice cream. Said ice creams. Ooh, now, I did have one once, didn't I? And wasn't it supposed to be the honeycomb swirl.
The one that I took back 3 times.
And Mike took it back 3 times. There was no honeycomb in the honeycomb swirl. What I think they'd given me was possibly toffee fudge. Whatever it wasn't right. Anyway, it still wasn't right. So I think they'd mislabelled that, but never mind. That is the ice cream. Just a matter of choosing which ones you want. Now, my favourites would be, I wouldn't touch banana. And I think is that dough? I think there's dough in the banana, so I wouldn't touch that. Wouldn't have the cookies, because I don't eat that. A Zoom meter, that's what we need. There is a clotted cream, but I could eat that, but I probably wouldn't. Now, white chocolate, do happen to like white chocolate. And salted caramel's my favourite. Probably wouldn't go for the mint, wouldn't go for the Belgian chocolate. But the toffee fudge and the honeycomb swirl are definite possibilities. And although I actually adore strawberries, I don't really like strawberry ice cream. I can eat it at a push, but faced with that lot, I'd choose something else. And the bubblegum, well, just no, it's blue. Just say no more than that. It's blue. You noticed how few foods are actually blue. So I wouldn't bother. Oh, a typical Italian ice bar. I need to get over there then and have a look. It is beautiful. It is very, very beautiful. I think they also provide free ice creams for kids. What's the gum? Bubblegum flavour. I think it's just a flavour. They're all ice creams, like quite creamy ice creams. The difference is the flavour. Just the 1 scoop of each, is it, Graham? We'll have that when we have this MacBites meetup. We will. But we were actually there for a totally different reason, obviously. It was lunchtime. Look at his little face. And, of course, he was very happy by that stage because he'd got his salad cream or mayonnaise, which we put on breakfast, but apparently that's not the done thing. But it's our done thing. But it was a carvery that we had. So we had a carvery lunch. So that was a weekend. We then headed into Monday. You know how you say the week started well? Can I honestly say it didn't? Now, before we panic, this isn't us. No. That is a road that leads from a main motorway in Manchester called the M60. It's the Manchester Ring Road. It probably skirts the town of Manchester by about 5 miles all the way round. And there is a spur off it. It's actually called the Carrington Spur. And we live 1 mile from there. Literally, if you headed off from where that photo was taken and you walked in a straight line for just under a mile, that's where we are. Now, what had happened with that car? That's actually the back of it, I do believe, in which case he's managed to hit the front and the back at the same time. Is that the back? It is the back, isn't it? Yes, that's the back. Yeah. Incredible. Yes, some idiot. The speed limit on this thing's 50 miles an hour, by the way. Some idiot, yeah, doing a lot more than that. It was that close I could probably have heard the bang if I'd have been up early enough, but it was all over the media. The reason it was all over the media was given whose car it was. Now, the name won't mean a thing. He's Manchester United's second goalkeeper. You're wondering why Manchester United's second goalkeeper, when he should have been at training on a Monday morning, was a mile from us. That's because, as the crow flies from us, the training ground is about half a mile away. And he was heading there. Needless to say, didn't quite make it. Stupid boy. That's not the first time that's happened round here. Cristiano Ronaldo wrapped his around the bypass at the airport. So I always say to Mike, be careful out there, because you never know. There were no bollards hurt in this, Neil. Not a one. I don't know how. That's the not the central reservation. It's the side. What would you call them? It's the barriers they would have in the central reservation. And they, they're quite sturdy, but they look there like they're made out of paper. So clean through them he went. I have no idea how he did that. It's a straight road. What I will say is there is a bump in it. And it's not a sideways thing. It's an up and down bump. Now, it wasn't there when it was built. But this is another calamity from a good few years ago. We had an earthquake. I know, this is Manchester. We had an earthquake and it split this spur clean in half. So when they patched it up, it's not perfect. But he's far enough away from that bit that if it was that, I have no idea what speed he was doing. So all the bollards were quite safe at that point, and he headed off back to work. We're avoiding it. Now Tuesday. Tuesday, I was busy, and I've got more about this later, but it's already been mentioned, the bulbs. These are the smart bulbs. But you'll notice they're not Philips Hue. That's because Philips Hue bulbs are about £22 to £25 each, and there's 4 in that box. And I got those for, I think it was £32 for 4, which was a lot better than nearly over 60, if not more, 80, between 60 and 80. So that's why I went for the alternatives. But Tuesday was spent configuring them. But as I say, more on that later. Then Wednesday. Now, we were in the Slack group on Wednesday. We were having a ball. And pictures of desks were being posted. And I sent one of mine. That's the racks that I put my iPads and laptops in. It's actually of my own construction. It started life as 3 letter racks. You can just see the letter rack part of it here. It's, let me get that on the right screen. It's there. That's one bit of it. And then you can see little bits of it there. So it's got 9 slots in it. So starting at the back here, we have a first gen 12.9 inch iPad. Then we have a second gen 12.9 inch iPad. This is my MacBook Air 13 inch. This is my MacBook Air 11 inch from many moons ago. It's 8 years old this year, that thing. They were made a lot better then, obviously. This one is my iPad Pro. This one, I'm trying to think which is the oldest. I think that's the oldest. That's an iPad 9.7 inch. This one looks identical to it, but that's the Pro version. So that's a 9.7 iPad Pro. And that is my 10.5 inch iPad, which I do still absolutely love. This is my Kindle Oasis. Spare phone. And somewhere in there, I think it's in that dark bit there, there's an iPod Touch as well. So we did all of that on Wednesday. We shared all our desks. They were fantastic. They're still coming in. It was amazing. So you need to get in there and have a look at everybody's desk. Mike's is in there. We've got historical ones of Mike's. Both of mine is in there. The studio's in there. And loads of other people. So it's great to see where people work. But it gives you an idea when people are saying it where they're working. It's good like that. So let's get on to Thursday. What happened on Thursday? Oh, nicked back into Bramley Farm to discover the cakes have been given a Valentine's makeover. They're even sexier now, aren't they? Mind you, that's carrot cake. I must admit, I don't eat carrot cake. But they were all beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Which led us to Friday, which was why we weren't live last night. No, we were out. We were out watching the haggis be piped. And it was a Burns Night supper. The food was absolutely fabulous. I only had haggis for the first time 2 years ago. And Mike missed it 2 years ago. He was training and he came along later, but by then the haggis had gone. So we made some haggis at home so he didn't miss out. And we both actually really like it, but we tend to only have it Burns Night. So it was a fantastic meal last night for Burns Night, which takes us on to today, sort of. Because we do like to make a night of it when we're out, don't we, Mike?
We do.
Oh, so on the way back, now you'll notice he'd taken his dicky bow off by this stage. He knows how to give a girl a good time. You never know when you might need a dicky bow in the car. You know, instead of a fan belt or something. He really does know how to give a girl a good time. Yes, it was a midnight trip to Tesco. Now, the only saving grace of said midnight trip to Tesco was it was quiet. Possibly too quiet in the checkout area, I would say slightly. But we'll come on to that. It's that time, isn't it? It's January, so it must be Easter eggs. Never seen so many Easter eggs. Now, what was fantastic about it was there was no other people, particularly kids. Love kids, couldn't eat a whole one. But shopping when they're not there, it's a completely different business. So much so, I had time to find that they do gluten-free, wheat-free and milk-free eggs. Now, given there's no gluten, wheat or milk in it, I'm not actually sure what's in it. But I was quite tempted. I didn't. But I'm thinking, white chocolate egg, raspberry pieces. But then there was the caramel one. No, I really need to think more carefully about it. But we got to see everything and we weren't rushed. Mike was more than taken with the 50 eggs. Well, 40 eggs. But have you noticed it says 40 eggs minimum? It's not far off to Easter, is it? But, they barely got Christmas over with, to be honest. And while we were looking at all of these goodies, it's Tesco grocery store. It is. It's a big supermarket. So probably equivalent to your Walmart. Walmart in the UK is known as Asda. And that is competition for Tesco. So think Walmart and you're not far wrong. Tesco did try to get into America, but they did it with another brand, something green. And I think they basically got hounded out of town. Tesco isn't somewhere I particularly enjoy visiting, I must be honest. I would much rather go to different supermarkets, but they were open and it was midnight. They're open 24 hours a day, except they close at midnight on a Sunday and open again, I think, Monday morning at 8. So they only do a short day on a Sunday, but that's Sunday trading rules. Nothing to do with them. So yes, it's everything you could conceivably want. And while we were looking at all of those goodies, what did we end up buying? Look at his little face. Water. Bottled water. Oh, we were very good, weren't we, Mike? Bottled water. Although Mike did get some lemonade as well. But what we did notice was it was a death trap trying to get around a supermarket at that time of night because they were filling the shelves. And every aisle you went up had some death trap in the middle. But never mind, we'd had a good week.
I want to know if I got Toblerone.
Did you get a Toblerone? Now, the thing with the Toblerones, Paul, glad you mentioned that. We were sat there at the Burns night and I got my phone out, which I should have taken a picture of that. We got greeted last night on the way in. Can you turn your phones off? We don't want any phones on. No, what was it? Phones, iPads and headphones. And I'm like, sorry, pardon? I mean, I wouldn't be making a phone call. I could be on call. You know, we've got one elderly parent left who's almost 80. We're monitoring Lola. We've got you guys to talk to. Seriously, turn it off? Are you insane? Anyway, we weren't pleased with that. But while we were there, I had it hidden under the table, which doesn't work well when you're trying to open it with your FaceTime thing. What's it? Face ID. Not from under the table. So I had to bring it out disguised in a napkin. So I gets into it. So I gets the Tesco app up and I puts in Toblerone. And I thought, I wonder if there's any on offer. Oh, there was a Toblerone on offer. It was a white one and Mike wanted one. So he did get a white Toblerone.
And I want chocolate.
And you want chocolate?
No, one.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we should have taken pictures of our winnings. We should. It was the raffle last night at the Burns night. And they were doing it very weird. It was one winner per table. So Mike won a box of chocolates. Big box of Thornton's chocolates. So I thought, well, that's the end of that. And there I am with this phone secreted in the napkin trying to hide it. When they then said, well, that's the table winners, but we're now having 2 overall big winners. One of them was a hamper full of food, and the other was a bottle of single malt. Well, all the guys in the room were like, just give me the malt. So I'm sitting there, and I think I had cheese and biscuits as well, so I had a biscuit in my hand. When all of a sudden he pulled out the winner and said Elaine Giles, and I thought, oh my God, I need to get rid of the biscuit and Mike take this phone. So I won the single malt. Yes, I know, I'm teetotal. Tell you what though, I was very popular later. I've no idea how much this thing was worth, but glances were being put across and there were daggers in them. Yes, so we got Toblerone, we got alcohol, and we got chocolates. So a few
chocolates left.
And there's even a few chocolates left. I haven't been offered one, that's all I'll say. But let's get on and look at the tech. This was an app I think was mentioned. I can't remember now how come we ended up talking about it. It could have been included in a deal or something, but it was definitely mentioned. Somebody mentioned it. So I went off to have a look at it because it reminded me of something that I talked about years ago and it died. The app that I was thinking it was, this is the app here, but there was another app that didn't look, the icon was different than that, but it was called iPhoto Library Manager. Who remembers that one? It was out a few years ago, and basically what it did was provide management for you of multiple iPhoto libraries. Now, obviously, iPhotos got laid to rest, and Photos became the app. At that point, I wasn't doing it, because I don't want all the photos on my phone and my iPad and everything else all synced. No, not doing that. But I had been using iPhoto for assets for presentations and things, so they were all in one place. So there would have been a huge benefit for me in that if I could have still used it. But obviously when Photos became the app, I left it alone, not touched it since. But whoever it was mentioned something about this app. I think it was on offer. And I thought, that sounds remarkably similar to iPhoto Library Manager. So I went off to have a look at it, and that's exactly what it is. So although it's called Power Photos, I think if it said Library Manager, we'd know what it did. I looked at it, I know what it does. It's replaced iPhoto Library Manager completely. Even better, it's Paul, and isn't it? Yes, it is, Paul. Yes, it is. But there was enough difference with it that I thought, I wonder if it's exactly the same thing. And it seems to be. Now, interestingly for me, I thought, right, so how much is this going to cost? And I think it was around the $40 mark. But I went in to make sure it was from the same people, and it was. And then I went and thought, right, is there an upgrade from what I had, which wasn't even the same app? But I went in and yes, there was an upgrade. But underneath that, it also says that a license key purchased after a certain date or for a certain version of iPhoto Library Manager will work on Power Photos. And I thought, well, I know I've got a license for it. So I went back and I had a look at that. And I didn't even need to pay for the upgrade. The license I'd got worked. Now, why that's significant is if you had a license for the old one, now you might think, no, I didn't buy it. But it was very often in bundles. So it's always worth checking your license keys, just in case you had one, and now you want to use it for a slightly different app, but from the same people. So I thought we'd have a look at it. So it's come back to me now, Paul. I've got that many things coming in. Got hit on the head with a large plastic container. That's not good. Wow. This is why I don't go to supermarkets, dangerous places. I send Mike instead. Much more better, much more equipped for these things than me. Right, so let's have a look at Power Photos. You can see I have the Photos app and I have the Power Photos. In fact, I've got lots of Photos apps in there, haven't I? I'm going to start off with, let me see, let's open Photos. That's a good place to start, isn't it? Right, what I have in my Photos is not Photos. What I have in my Photos is assets. And then lovely and organised. Although at the library level, at the top, you can go to your photos, and there are all your photos. You can see in here, that's by date. And it makes sense for photos, but obviously for my stuff, less so. These are just things that I want to have available to drag and drop into presentations as I work. So I thought I'd give it a go for that, basically. But then I thought, right, because of what I'm doing, it makes more sense to have them folded up into albums. So I had 2 albums, one for MacBites and one for icons. And then within that, I've created a chapter markers group in there. And they're virtually in the right order, I do believe. And titles and credits. So they're on the show if you listen to the show. But I've also got the iWork icons and Mac apps and Office and screencasting apps. So that's what's in my Photos library, not Photos, but it doesn't actually matter. Now, what Power Photos does is enable you to manage multiple libraries. So what comes up automatically, I called it Assets. So it's got the green tick next to it telling you that that's the one that you're using by default. You'll see this one says default library and it says the system library. That's the first one that was created. So if I go into there, I did a demo with it and that's pretty much what's there. There's one photo in it. So I decided I'd create an extra library. So another reason that you might want to create an extra library is for a specific job. Now I have a library that goes back years. It was one of the last holidays that my father had. And I'd got my mum a digital camera to go away with. She came back with it. We put all of the photos from it into a library of their own, and we made a book from it. So if you wanted to make a book and have one dedicated library for it, that would be another use for it. But obviously Apple don't tend to make that as easy as they could do. But in here, it's incredibly simple. So you would just say new library. Now you can see these are in my pictures folder. So we'll say demo library. And it's as simple as that to create one. If you want that to become the default one, you can... Oh, no, that's not giving me that option. I'm sure it was in there. I'm sure it was. Let's have a look. Not in there either. It's somewhere, because I've done it. I swapped it over to that one. So I must have done it somehow. Open, reveal, duplicate, remove. No, that's not the one. It's somewhere in there. Merge, find... No, they're going off into all sorts of other things. But in here, you can open it. So that will then override what's in Photos, and you can see you start again. So it's a good way if you want to completely start your photo library again, or maybe with a different device, or maybe you're triaging it for a family member and you don't want, they need their pictures off their phone, but you don't particularly want to have to put them into your library, then create a completely separate library. And these libraries are then portable between machines. So you can wrap up all their stuff, sort their phone out for them, triage the whole lot, have a backup. So I've backed up my phone to one of these libraries and then put it in a backup location. So it's a kind of app I would treat as, oh, now I've opened it, that then becomes the default one. That must be how you did it. I thought there was an option. There definitely used to be in the other one. I think of it more as a utility rather than actually sitting and using this on a daily basis. This is something that I would keep in my toolkit, and then as and when I have a need for it, use it. As you've seen, my default library is that assets library, so I've been doing that. But just the fact that I can easily switch between them, between libraries, makes it much more likely that I will use the Photos app at all. Because if I couldn't do that, I wouldn't bother with it. I wouldn't bother with it at all. So let's open up that assets library and show you how I actually use that. Oh, I need an app to put that into. Let's not play with Keynote. Let's go into Pages and make a new Pages file. That's because Keynote's running. It's actually got a presentation there at the moment. Right, let's have a blank Pages file and possibly persuade it to put it on the right page as well. There we go. Right, so we have a blank Pages file and we have the Photos app. And what I tend to do, only I do it with Keynote, is if I want an icon, I just drag and drop the icon in from there. The other beauty of this thing, and I can then obviously scale that as required, but the other beauty of this thing is the reason it saves me time, even though I have a way, if I show you this, icon, I type the word icon, and then put in something like Notion, right? And it lists Notion as an installed application. And what icon is, the word, is an Alfred workflow that will extract an icon. So let's do that and show you why it's still better to use another app. Because for years I was doing it this way. It was easier. That, if we look at it, is 512 pixels square. Some of them are even more. So let's have a look at Word. And let's see what size that is. That one is 1024 by 1024, which is fantastic. So if I wanted to use these, I'm going to get really good quality. I drag and drop these, they're huge. So I get really good quality. But Apple have been playing around. And one of the problems that I've got using this method is if I wanted the Keynote icon, yep, it extracts it. And look at the size of it. 256 by 256. They used to be 1024. So it's now 4 times smaller than it used to be. I think it's so people don't nick it and use it. So if I drag and drop that one in, it's tiny. And if I wanted it bigger, which obviously in Keynote I do, it starts pixelating. Not good. You compare how fuzzy that is with that, which is pin sharp, you can see the problem. So what I had to do for iWork was go and find 1024 versions of the icons. And to manage them, I then needed somewhere to put them. So if we do a comparison between those two, you can instantly see the difference. But I can no longer just extract them from the app at the moment I want to use them. Can't do that. So to have somewhere to put them, So to build a library is a huge benefit. So don't even just think of photos and Power Photos as managing multiple libraries or multiple collections of actual photos. It could be assets like I'm doing here. The other way that I use it is with the chapter markers and the titles and credits for MacBytes, which is, as I'm working in Hindenburg, and we come to a different section of the show, so the Mac Love Bites, we've got a love bite from Johnny. Right, all I need to do in Hindenburg is drag and drop that onto the timeline from within there. And you can see that is also a large graphic. I think that's 1024 as well. Because no, it's not. It's bigger than that. That is 14.4. So it's 1,440 points because that's the minimum size that iTunes wants. So obviously these things are big, but it's a way that I can actually manage them. Like shopping with Elaine. I'm sure our trip to Tesco will get mentioned. If you've never heard of shopping with Elaine, they're educational, aren't they, people? Yeah, Graham and Johnny will appreciate that. They're educational shopping with me. At the time, I nearly got arrested, but it wasn't my fault. It never is, as I say. Right, so let's close that down. Let's close that down. And delete that. We don't need that. And we don't need these icons either. Let's tidy up as we go, because we wouldn't want the thing carping out on us again, would we? Like has happened every now and then, which we're not talking about. No, no, no. So Power Photos is a way for you to actually manage the photos themselves. Now, more than that, if I had multiple libraries of these, and I can pretty much guarantee I'm going to find one, I'll find an iPhoto library and I'll want to triage that. But as you can see from the library menu, you have options. You can merge libraries together. You can find duplicates as well as import new ones. But the merge and find duplicates is so important to keep everything organised. So it provides the ability to do all of that as well. So given that it's back and given that, now you might think, well, I'm sure you mentioned something else for this. Indeed, I did. It was an app called PicSave. And PicSave is brilliant. Love PicSave. We bring that on. Doesn't it look familiar? I've configured it exactly the same way. So I've got all of the show art and credits. I've got the chapter markers. We did a review of the year last year. Those are the months that I created for it. I've got posters in here. We've got icon design, all kinds of stuff. But this is a paid for thing. And to be honest, it is amazing and I love it. It's got more features that are useful to me than Photos has. You know, I've got collections that are automatically generated based on file type and things. But it hasn't been updated in so long, I'm worried. Whereas the Photos app comes from Apple, and I know they binned Aperture, but they can't bin everything, can they? This is my logic. So as I'm using this at the moment as a backup to that, and getting myself used to it in case the other one goes away. Oh, what's going on here? Memory web? Yeah. Ah, you don't have a Mac. Ah, that's the issue, isn't it, Deb? That's another problem with Photos, to be honest, isn't it? Apple have made some things available for Windows, but certainly not all. And even the Windows machines I work on, I don't bother synchronizing iCloud to them or anything like that. Probably not really worth it. So I just thought we'd take a swift look at that and how I'm particularly using it. But I would certainly say, you know, the Photos app is there and that's free. While this is a paid for thing, and how much is it, Mike? I didn't pay that much for it because, as I've just said, I paid for the first one. And I think that was $12. Now, it has gone up since then, but the reason that it's probably worth paying for is it's a fantastic way to back up the photos.
$30.
$30. That's not bad, is it? That's probably about £24, £25 at the moment. But what it would enable you to do is back up everything from your phone in one central place. So even just for backup purposes, which was what I did when I was rebuilding devices. So I've got a collection of libraries and they're named with the device name and the date and time that was made. So for backup purposes. So I thought I'd mention it. So huge thanks to Paul there for pointing that out. I had gone back and had a look at their site, but it was a while back and they clearly hadn't transition to Power Photos, and I must never have gone back because I switched to something else and that was that. But we've gone back and we've had a look at it now. So excellent. Right, let's have a look with the next one. Oh, this was good. This was a question. It was a question that I had from 3 or 4 different people as to how I actually created this. I'll show you what I did last week, and then I'll show you how I actually created it. But to do this, you're going to need an application. The one I use is Typinator, but I understand it may not be for everyone. Reason being, it's Mac only. It's not on Windows. It's not on iOS. I prefer it because I had a most unfortunate... I was trying an application. The application I was trying was this one, TextExpander. And it was synchronizing via Dropbox. The only problem was it wasn't. So I got onto TextExpander support. And I didn't hear back from them. So I got onto them again, still didn't hear back from them. Well, at that point, your application's failing. It's losing data. That's like the biggest fail of an application I can imagine. It's losing data. The only reason I could get it back was I'd got multiple copies and I could roll back with Dropbox. That was point one. It's losing data. But point two, you don't get back to people on support. Yeah, not good. So I went from TextExpander to Typinator. But as I say, there are downsides to it. There is no iOS version, there is no Windows version. The other problem with it is, which is much more significant, it's not activated software, but it's very clever software. If it's installed on machine number one, and machine number one is on a network. Now, obviously, in MacBytes headquarters, everything's on a network, including the light bulbs. It knows if there's another version running on somebody else's machine and if it's using the same license key. So you need to buy one license per computer. Now, it's only about $9. I think they have to be bought in 5s or 10s, but we bought 10 and never mind with it. What I'll say about Typinator is the support is amazing, and that was incredibly important to me, given where I was coming from, which was TextExpander. I'll give you an example of how good the support is. They're based in Germany, and I presume German's their first language. I speak not a word of it. So they brought out a new version, and one of the functions had changed. And basically what had changed was, if you go into Alfred, let me show you. Let me come out and actually show you. You go into Alfred, and I want to go to MacBytes. I could start typing. But I, of course, have a shortcut. When I type the section key and MB, it will put in MacBytes, and that's what I wanted to do. I then press that, it opens out, and there's MacBytes. Awesome. The only problem was it stopped working. So I thought, that's not good. And I sat there and thought, would this have a huge impact on me? And one of the ones that I use a lot is that, which is Exchange. It does currency conversions. The XE currency conversions, and no, not to euros. Definitely not after next Friday. Not to dollars either. Where am I going? Are these recent? Oh, I want you... There we go, British pounds. So we've just said that last app was $30. And yeah, never mind the cookies. Get on with that. Oh, come on. $30 to pounds. Was that right? Oh, it's cheaper than I thought. Good grief, we're up to 130. How did that happen, Mike? It was about 117 the last time I looked. But that's the kind of thing that I do with it. And the problem was it had stopped working. Unceremoniously stopped working. So I sent support a ticket and said, it used to do this. It's not doing it anymore. What happened? And the guy came back within 3 minutes and said a lot of people wanted the option. They wanted it not to expand in Alfred. So I turned it off and I said, yeah, that's not what I want. So as I'm reading this reply, I'm like, no. But he came to me and he said, but obviously it's important to you. So here's some code. Put that in the terminal, it fix it. Like, whoa, 3 minutes. 3 minutes for a support ticket in a foreign language. So that's why I use Typinator. What's the key combo to bring up the section key symbol? It should be on the left-hand side of your keyboard, next to the 1 key. Oh, it's Austrian, is it? Oh, in that case, well, heaven knows what his first language is then. But I know a lot of the support stuff's in German, so I must have assumed. Apologies to them. Austrian. 3 minutes. I know, it was stunning. And it wasn't... They were earlier than us, aren't they? Are they behind? I think they're an hour behind. I think they're on European CET, I think they are. But it was amazing. With it, not only just a reply, because, 3 minutes I glanced at it thinking, oh, that's the autoresponder. No, that wasn't the autoresponder. That was the developer, and that was the answer, the solution. Right, so section key. Section key is, I can show you the section key, can't I? Where's that keyboard thing? Helen uses it. It's fabulous. Is it keyboard? And you can actually turn the keyboard thing on. Is it keyboard viewer?
Falls on a US keyboard.
Oh, it might be in a different place. Let's find out where it is. It should be on the left-hand side.
It looks like 2 S's.
If you've got the tilde, is it next to the Z, Paul, or is there nothing next to the Z? Let's have a look. Let's bring this on and actually have a look. There is a keyboard viewer. I know there's a keyboard viewer. Let me try viewer. No, that's not it. Helen would know instantly where to get that from. And I know it's somewhere hidden in here. Isn't there a way to turn it on in here? Helen's screaming at me now. I know you are, Helen. I know. Is it input? Is it that? And then I can bring it up. It's there. It's actually showing. Oh, naughty, naughty. It's where my mouse pointer is in the middle of that. Right. Oh, you're an hour ahead of us. That'd be about right. Right. So it's that key there next to the 1 if you're in the UK. Now, if I can show that up there, there's the keyboard viewer. Thank heavens for that. Right. It's lying, of course, because it's saying that there is a backtick on that, and there isn't on my keyboard. That's the section key, but that's not what it's doing. But that's where it is on mine, next to the 1. Now, if it's an American one, could be anywhere. But it doesn't matter. I've just chosen the section key because I don't use it for anything else.
This says hold down the option key and press 6.
Option 6. Let's try option 6. What do we get if we do option 6? There you go. Try option 6. There we go. Right, let's get rid of that then and let's get back into there. So, that was why I used Typinator. But Text Expander may be different now. As, where is it? Neil. Yes, Jeff Gammett now works for them. Who knows? Here's hoping they're a lot better. Right, if you haven't got either of those and you don't want to use them, Keyboard Maestro is an alternative.
Yeah, option 6 works.
It does. There's also System Preferences. Now, this is the one that Helen uses extensively, way more than I do. So I'm leaving that to Helen, but I can tell you the System Preferences version will not do what we're about to do. And it's nothing to do with the fact that the System Preferences can't expand text, because it can. It just won't do it in the right place. But as I said, I am leaving that to Helen in a future show. So I'm going to show you how I do it in Typinator. Let's head off and do that. And I will do it with Edge. So I've got Edge over there. Let's bring Edge over here onto this screen. There we go. And there's this show. Oh, how meta, this show. So what I was showing you was, in here, that I can type a shortcut in there. So we've just looked at that Exchange site, and I just press enter and it automatically expands it. So it's how to do that. Now, the thing is, in relation to what these text expansion programs can do, you have to think of them in different groups of actions that they can perform. So the first thing they can do is fix things. So I'm going to get that out of the way and open up. What have I got to open up? Let's try BB Edit. Let's try BB Edit. Right, let's bring BB Edit up, which is just a text editor. Right, the first thing it can do is fix typos. What's the betting I can't find a typo that it would fix now? Ooh, let's have a look at some of the corrections. This is the Typinator interface. Now, some things are shortcuts, but some of them are auto corrections here, like these. So if I spelt accident with an A, really? Fair enough. Accident with an A, it will correct it. And it does that. Have I covered Alfred scripts in a past episode? Yes, I have. Mike's gone off to sort out Lola and her squeaky chicken, but I'll make sure when he comes back, he finds out what show that was. We covered it quite early on. Johnny loved it, blew Johnny's mind. I think we did it over 3 weeks. So yes, we did do that. We did some quite advanced stuff with Alfred. So the first thing it can do is automatically correct misspellings. Now, the system is doing that as well. But obviously, in Typinator, that collection there, you see there's tidbits as well, corrections from them. So you can get collections of corrections. That's not easy to say. And there's a lot in there. And they automatically correct as you type. Now, the next set of functionality that it has, it's no different in terms of how it does it. But what is different is what you type in to make it do it. So if you look at these corrections, they're putting in misspellings. So, abolished. The abbreviation is one version of a misspelling and then it corrects it. But the other type that we're talking about is where you type in a word and it expands to something completely different. So what I'm going to do is show you completely from scratch, which I will add a set. Now, a set is a group of shortcuts, abbreviations. So I'll call this demo. And then once you've got your group, you put in the expansions or corrections, however you want to term it, over on the right hand side. And although Text Expander looks different to this, it's not that much different. And they all seem to have the groupings. Now you might be wondering, well, why have groupings? And the thing is, you may want to back them up. Now these are all synchronized via Dropbox, so I don't need to back them up for that purpose. But if I wanted to give a set to Mike, then I could do that. So I could export from here. So you can see I've got the set information. I can delete it, print it, or export it. I can even publish it if I want to. So one of the things I would do is export it to back it up. Right, so we've got a separate group there entirely. And the kind of thing we're talking about is to put in things and have it automatically expand. Now, I'm going to have to be very careful here because I've probably already got stuff in here for things like this. But let's see if I can put in that. APUB. And it's all one word. And I would like that to expand to Affinity Publisher. So when I'm creating a manual, whatever it is I'm writing about, I'm going to mention that over and over and over again. So we now have an abbreviation. So if I go back into here, we'll delete the word accident and put in APUB, automatically I get Affinity Publisher and then I just carry on typing. So it's way faster. So it's that kind of correction, or however you would like to word it, that we're talking about here. What I do with it is put in web addresses. That's the only difference. So good practice to me is to use a key at the beginning or a letter. So we'll leave that APUB one in, but we'll make a new one. Use a letter combination that would never be next to each other. So let's say I want my signature. I just want my name. All right, so XEG. That is not clashing with anything. And what I would like it to expand to is my name if I ever have to fill that in. So let's go back to BBEdit and test that one, which is XEG. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. However, there will be occasions where it's better to use a symbol. And you've got quite a few on here if you think about it. A lot of people tell you to use the /. Now you can see that says disabled by /EG of my abbreviations. So I've clearly used that before, but to be honest, it's not the best one to use. Because what you want to do, hence me with my section key, all right, that's my section key up there. Now that's still disabled because I've already used it. But if we say section key and then 2 letters, that's better than this. Why? Who can tell me why a / is a bit of a problem? Some people use a full stop. Yeah, that's not bad. But it can be better to use something that's predictable. Why isn't a / predictable? While I take a drink, you have a think about that. The / should be predictable. Where do we use a /? Where you could run into problems. This is great fun, actually, if you install it on somebody's machine who hasn't got a clue what's going on. I know, naughty, but it's great fun. The reason is, where do we use a /? URLs. And URLs, you may be typing in a URL. I wouldn't try this in the terminal, but you're quite right, web addresses.
Notion.
And Notion, yeah, that's a good idea, Notion as well. So steer away from the /. You might want to use a backslash instead. That might be a better bet. Or a full stop, or a comma, or maybe even a bracket. Yeah, maybe just put a bracket in, or a curly bracket. But what I'd say to you is, make a decision and then stick with it. Some of them, I think I've got one in there. Let me see if I've got, was it about, did I do that? Yeah, what I did with this one, this is exactly the same principle. So I'm not extending this into the third kind yet. This is exactly the same principle. What I'm going to do in there is put a red dot in. I use that red dot all the time on my calendar. If an appointment has a red dot on it, it means I've got to leave the safe and warm cocoon that is MacBytes headquarters. So I perennially attempt to limit the red dots on my calendar. Let's do it remotely is my answer to virtually everything. Don't leave the dog. What can I say? So there's another example. It's not text you're expanding to that time. Let's see if it'll go into BB Edit. So RD red dot, and I get a red dot. And wouldn't it be nice if I could put BD blue dot? Not set up yet, but simple enough to do. Plus / blue dot. In fact, there may be, have a think about that. Is that the best way to do that? While I go find the blue dot. There's the blue dot. Is that the best way to do it? In there right now, it doesn't matter. But down the line it might. Because as you put in extra expansions, you'll doubtless get some between the blue dot and the red dot. It might actually be better to say to yourself, /d dot colour, BR. So /dr/db. I know it seems odd to put the dot first, but then they will be alphabetical as they're listed. These are the kind of things you need to think about. But in BB Edit, if we go back to BB Edit and this time put in a blue dot, I get a blue dot. So that's where you're not correcting a misspelling, which is one use case for it. Oh, I'm liking that. Use a semicolon. Yep, semicolon's good. It's unlikely that it will be used in any other way. What I tend to do, I use that section key, but there's also that one, which is Shift and the section key. I'll leave Mike to find out what that is on an international keyboard, just because that will never be used either. It will make a difference which application you're using, because if you're using Text Expander, you can use collections on iOS, and the section key either isn't on the keyboard or it's that far down the keyboard, it's a pain to use. So for something like that, a / or a colon, semicolon might be a lot easier to get to. So it's just a matter of working out a protocol that you're going to stick to. But this is the second kind of expansion where you're changing what you type in for something completely different. So it's a shortcut that is going to put in something longer. Tilde for you. Yep, that's next to my, oh, I've got two on there. Right, there we go. That's next to my Z key, but that's not on an American keyboard, because on an American keyboard, the Shift key is wider. So you have to think in terms of what keyboards you're using as well. Do you need to switch a keyboard? Whatever's easiest. Sometimes for me, it's doing it with one hand. So I tend to be heavy on the left-hand side of the keyboard for things.
± sign is quite specialised.
Oh, it's special. In other words, it's not there.
You might use it often if you're writing a scientific paper.
No, I wouldn't be writing a scientific paper at all. So I could reserve that. You could use anything that makes sense. But
and it doesn't appear on an Apple US keyboard or a non-Apple UK keyboard.
Oh, well, there you go. So it's going to be tricky to use that one. Having said that, surely you could put it in there if you put a plus in.
If I ever find myself in a lift with Tim Cook, that's the question I'm going to ask you.
Oh, poor Timmy. Timmy's going to get it in the neck for that. Design decision above his pay grade at the time, I'm sure. But anyway.
Option, Shift and equals on a US keyboard.
Option, Shift and equals. Yes, that does it as well. It does it on mine. Option, Shift and equals if you want that one. But whatever you choose, it's completely up to you. It's what makes sense to you. But no, you won't be able to hear Mike well because I haven't turned his microphone up. There's reasons for that, technical reasons. It all starts echoing and stuff. But you will hear him when he's speaking later, promise. So work out a protocol that works for you. But this is the second group where you're typing in something and you want it radically changing to something else. So for me, Shift MB puts in MacBytes and Shift EG puts in my website. That's just the way I've set it up. We've got that one that puts in my name and so forth. They all work exactly the same way. So let's set them up so we can put some in for Stack Social. And I'm thinking to myself, where did Edge go? Right, there it is. Because I had all this beautifully arranged in Edge, so I can copy and paste some stuff, which should work well. Right, got what I need there. So I have Stack Social. So let's go into Firefox and let's go to Stack Social. Now there's a reason that I'm going to this one. Stacksocial.com. Right, I bought some stuff from Stack Social over time. As you can see, credits gained, etc. So sometimes when I find a deal in here, so let's say there's some training stuff in there now, or lifetime subs to things. That's definitely some of the stuff I've bought. It's usually storage stuff. I do not need live stream fitness. Yep, not happening. No. Who would? No, just no. Now that's the kind of thing I might be interested in, book summaries or something like that. So for a start, there's a URL. So let's say I recommend that URL a lot, right? Which is ending in one day, so maybe not. But let's say that's what I'm going to do. Right, so let me get that URL, copy it, and hide that. And what I want to do in here is make a shortcut for it. So let's say, what shall we have for web URLs? What should we go for? Let's go for the semicolon that was mentioned before. So let's put that. Now you can see free. And then there's a semicolon. Never mind that. I'm going to put in here Stack Social. And the URL is that. I want to recommend that. And I'm going to do it over the course of a week lots of times. And I want a quick way of doing it. There we go. Perfect. So let's go back to BBEdit. And let's bring that on. You just type in the shortcut. It expands it. Fantastic. Another one that I do that with a lot is Mighty Deals. MightyDeals.com. Right, now this one, hang on. No, Mighty Deals. Did I spell that wrong? I didn't put the Y in. This is why I need text expansion, clearly. Right, so I want to recommend a particular deal maybe, or maybe just Mighty Deals. I'm more likely, to be honest, to want to recommend a specific deal. I talked about Super Vectorizer being a great app. So what I would do with this is get the actual URL itself, which is that bit there, and I'd do exactly the same as you've just seen. So let's add another one, and Mighty Deals. Right, and then put that in. Perfect. Go and test it out. MD for Mighty Deals. Brilliant. But we're now moving on even further. Because what I do with my bookmarks is not just that. I extend it further than that. Right, so what I actually tend to do, let's lose that and get back in here. I would actually want to be able, with Mighty Deals, to copy a URL like that one and then have it append the referrer ID at the end. Now obviously that's a bit trickier because I need to copy it first because the URL is going to be changing all the time. But what isn't going to change is the referral ID at the end. So just to show you what a referral ID actually looks like, I will copy an entire URL. We'll go into there, up to the top. That's what a referral URL looks like. Has the actual URL, and on the end of it, it puts a referral ID. So what I'd like to do in effect, is go to Mighty Deals, look for stuff that might be useful. So we did a whole load on comics, didn't we? Oh, that would be handy. But when you look up here, it has a question mark on it, and it's the bit after the question mark you can actually completely delete. But what's left, that URL there, wouldn't it be fantastic if I could copy that URL, go to my email client or wherever, let's lose that, and put in, you might be interested in this cartoon bundle from Mighty Deals. Right. And if I could spell might, clearly might need to add that one. But what I'd like to do now is put in not only what was on the clipboard, that is what's on the clipboard right now, but wouldn't it be good if I could put it with the referral code? And I have a Mighty Deal. No completions available, don't be silly, there you go. So I have that. When I press enter, it takes whatever is on the clipboard and it tags onto it my referral ID. So how do we make that? Well, you need the bit at the end, which is everything from the question mark. So now that is what's on the clipboard. And to prove that, I'll just paste it in. That's what's on the clipboard. Can Typinator do rich text replacement? Yes, it can. I have it set up for signatures in my email as well, and they've got colour coding in. We also use Typinator to do something magic with MacBytes, which I'll show you. Mike, hold that thought, Mike. Something magic in MacBytes. MacBytes and Scrivener it is. So I'll pop that there and do that. Right, but what I'm doing at the moment, what I have on the clipboard, I want to show you how you can get that in here and make the third kind of expansion. So make an expansion. It's in exactly the same way. So we're using the backslash here with Mighty Deals. This time in here, I need to tell Typinator somehow to use what's on the clipboard. And I do that by going into here. These are the magic things, the extra things that you can do. It can prompt you for inputs, it can do all kinds of stuff. But I'm interested in the clipboard. I want it to put the text of the clipboard into here. So it puts in a code, which is curly brackets clip. Basically, it's going to say, right, whatever's on the clipboard, that. And then the referral ID after it. So whatever is on the clipboard and add the referrer ID to it. Now, to show you that, I need to go back and copy that URL. So I've copied it. If I just paste that in, you can see there is no trickery here, like the magician. There's nothing on the end of it at the moment. But if I put in that, it appears. It takes what's on the clipboard and adds onto it my referral ID. And in exactly the same way, if I wanted to do the Stack Social one, you make it in exactly the same way. So I'm copying off screen my referral ID for that, which is there. Let's get rid of all of those, back into Typinator, and just make another one. Now, we already have a Stack Social up there. That was with a semicolon, but we're going to use the backslash now. So backslash SS. And again, this time I want the clipboard. And I want the text from the clipboard, and I just want it to tag that on the end. When I go in and put that in. Now, the reason that it's put it in twice is that is still what's on the clipboard. So then I would have to go back to my book summaries here, make sure I've copied that, and in here, there we go. So it's got the URL I've just copied, and it's got the code on the end. Now, a couple of other things that you can actually do, that you can make it do. In here, you can create another one. So I'm thinking what would make most sense here. Let's try the backslash, I think. Unless I've already done that. Have we got that? No. So what I'm doing is an abbreviation. Backslash CB. What do I want it to do? And normally you think we'll put some text in there. Yes, normally. But I could go into here and go down to clipboard, and instead of saying text from clipboard, just say paste the clipboard. So rather than take my hands off the keyboard maybe, or Command and V, all you would need to do, so let me go text to put on the clipboard. Right, select that, cut it, it's on the clipboard. And then \cb, and it replaces it with what's on the clipboard. It's another way to paste from your system clipboard. So those are the three types of, I would call them three different types of expansion. There's the ones where you misspell something and you would just rather it was click for me. Click, clicked, clicking. And I would misplace the I and the C. I just want that corrected without me knowing about it. That's group 1. Group 2 is where you type something, a secret code, and it expands into something else. The third group is where you have much more control and you start concatenating strings from things you've copied and to known things like referrer IDs. So those are the three different groups. Now, one of the questions was, can it do rich text replacement? Yes, it can. So let's come out of BBEdit. And we actually have one in here. I have no idea where it is. Right, but I will search for it. I've probably got EG in hundreds of them. I wonder which one it is. This one's the other way around. The section's at the end. Excellent. Now, for reasons that we do not need to go into, which are absolutely hideous and to do with Apple's text control, I have to have 2 of these. But there it is. If I type in EG section key, it will expand to EG dash. But if you look at it, it's in red. That's important. Right, this happens a lot. So let me open up Scrivener. This is where I actually use it. Yes, we definitely don't need to see that one, do we? I'll make a new Scrivener file. It'd be easier. It'd be easier if it did actually do it. New project. Away we go. And we'll have a blank project. Can it expand with the cursor placed in a certain position within the text? Yes, it can. I will show you how to do that. Scrivener demo. Right, so I'm placing a file on the desktop. Once it's done it, there it is. I'll bring it onto screen. Right, so in here, just black text, etc. But when we're doing a MacBytes, at the end of a MacBytes, we need to know who's introing it and who's outroing it. And then I need to know if Siri's saying anything. And this is how we do it. If you were doing it, we've tried this in a million apps, trust me on that. But we took a decision and said, what we need is something that uses rich text. So we've got the colour. The colour makes a difference. So I would start it off with I'm doing the intro. Then we'd have a load of content. So imagine loads of content. And then Mike's going to intro the next piece. So I do that. And then we've got more content. And then on the odd occasion that Siri actually says something, which is like all the time, there's Siri. There is Lady Siri. And I do believe, I can't remember what the shortcut was. Oh, there we go, Alexa. I also have, if it's a sound effect, if I need some sound effects in, and specific sound effects. Oh dear me, we've woken her up. Go away, Alexa. A specific sound effect, which is an ooh. So those are things we have configured. All of that is coming from Typinator. And it makes our life so much easier. It makes my life easier because I'm doing the edit. So I need to know who said what and when they said it. And that's how I do it. So yes, they are rich text expansions. You can also do signature expansions. I can't remember if I've got a signature that's got an image in it. That would be good. I will test that and find out. Okay, let's come out of there. Right, so what was the next one? Can it expand with cursor placed in a certain position? Yes, it can. So let's go back into BBEdit. BBEdit gone, other screen. Right, let's just empty that. And back into Typinator. Yes, if you wanted it to do a certain thing, so let's get rid of... Right, we were in our... Where's our demo group? Where have you put it? There it is. Right, let's say we wanted to put something in here, so you wanted to type something. In fact, I'm thinking there is actually one I could show you, which I think is that one. Yes. Right, when I'm writing Markdown, it's quite conceivable I want to put a link to the MacBytes website. So I I have copied the MacBytes website, but I need to put that somewhere in Markdown format. And I don't want to sit and type that in Markdown format. Life's too short, right? But what it would look like in Markdown is this. MacBytes site. And then I would have to do that. And then I'd have to paste that in. Right? And in essence, that's what I would have to type. Now, I already had that bit on my clipboard. But just imagine I wanted to have that on my clipboard and have it expand to that. Would that work? And the answer would be no, because I can't have that on my clipboard at the same time. So which is the easiest bit to type? And I do this all the time when I'm prepping for the show. So, for instance, we got something here. I did these earlier, show notes at the bottom that Mike's just used. And that's how I did it. So they automatically go in there. But I can only have one thing on the clipboard at a time. But this is what I do. So, MM for Markdown, multi-Markdown, URL. And it does that, and if you notice, very quickly, it twanged the insertion point back to the top, so I can actually put in MacBytes. You'll also notice an auto-correction going on. It corrects it to capital M, capital B. So actually how I do that is I put the dash in, then I put URL, and I put MacBytes in. So that is an example of it putting the cursor in a specific place. To see what that actually looks like, let's have a look at the Markdown set, and it's that one there. And what it's got in it is the square brackets that I want it to put in, but inside it, that's the insertion point. So let me go in and delete it, but let me make another one. There you go, I'll make another one. So it starts with MM, and we'll call it Graham. There you go, Graham. We'll call it MM Graham. And we'll build it from scratch. All right. So in there, what do we need? Well, first of all, we need the square brackets. So let's put the square bracket in. The very next thing that you need on there is the insertion point. So in here, you are looking for, where have they moved it to now? Control cursor position. There we go. Then I want that. Then I want a round bracket. And then I want what's on the clipboard. And we've already seen how to do that. You go into the clipboard group and say text from clipboard. And then a closing bracket. And it's that simple. So let's go and try MM Graham. So let's hope that that is already on there. All right. And I'll put that bit in. MM Graham. And it takes me straight back. And I can say Graham's link. Very simple to do. It can do a lot more than that, but this was only to show you creating shortcuts, really. But it can do a whole lot more than that. If you look at the options you've got down here, you can be prompted. It can do calculations on time and date, all kinds of stuff. One thing I use it for all the time, let's get rid of these, is every week I have to put in a newsletter onto the church's website. And the URL is absolutely hideous. Don't believe me? Oh, it's bad. It's really bad. Right, let me show you. I put in our parishes for, that's the brand name, and NL for newsletter, and it opens up this at the top, because obviously this changes every week. I've already done tomorrow's newsletter. Oh yes, somebody's ahead of themselves. Right, so I've already put that in, but obviously next week it will be the 2nd of February. So I would type the 2nd of February in, but we'll leave it at tomorrow's for the moment. So I put the date in, and then I do that, and it puts in that for me. Now, that automatically just works. But you should be thinking, looking at that, what do you mean automatically just works? Well, there's a predictable part of the URL, and the bit that's not predictable, you've just typed it in. That's that bit there. But is all of that URL predictable? Well, everything up to there is fine and dandy. But that little bit there, it's predictable in terms of it's 2020 right now and it's January. But I'm not typing that in. I didn't tell it what date it was and it didn't ask me what date it was. Interesting. So let's go back into Typinator and actually have a look at that one, which is, that's probably in our parishes. Should only be the one. There we go. That's what it's doing. So what it's actually doing is taking the predictable part, which is right up to the slash before uploads, and then it's automatically putting in the format YYYY, so 4 digits, the current year, and then it's putting in the current month. And then it's prompting me, that's what the question mark is, it's asking me, what is the newsletter date? So some of it is fixed at the beginning. Some of it is derived automatically by the system from the date. And what it can't work out, it actually asks me. So it is incredibly powerful. I was only intending to show you the links bit, but we've done that now. So there you go. You seem to have lots and lots of questions about that. So we'll probably touch on this again. Right, let's have a look at this. Is Clipmate text expansion? I thought it was a clipboard extender. It's a clipboard extender. Ignore Mike. Doesn't know what he's using. Text Expander works on Windows and there's a couple of others. On Windows, I didn't use one. This was something that I took on when I went to the Mac. Yes, Mike needs it. Clipmate's amazing. Clipmate is stunning. But it's not a clipboard extender. No. It's a clipboard extender. It's not a text expander. What Clipmate is multiple clipboards. But it's so intelligent. It's unbelievable. I'll get Mike to do a demo of that on Windows. It is fantastic. If that's the one app I've never been able to replace on the Mac. Nothing is as good. I have clipboard extenders. The one I use at the moment is called Copied. Alfred has a built-in one. Nowhere near as good as Clipmate. Nowhere near. Sadly, nowhere near. Right, let's get back into where we were at. Are there any more questions on that? Not at the moment. Right. This is something that we touched on last week, but we didn't go into it in any depth. But people have been trying to do it on their own and stumbling across problems. So I thought I'd show you how to do it properly. It'd be far easier if we do that, isn't it? What we're talking about is the bit below the fold. And what I mean by that is, in Notion, you have up here, so all of that bit there is meta. It's meta information. So you define what fields you want, and then you put in the metadata. Underneath that, you have another bit, which is the comments about this item. And that's it. The rest of this is blank and up to you to decide what to do. And that is what I have put in there. That is a blank week, and I've tidied it up considerably to simplify it. But why it's difficult to create if you have no clue what you're doing is that I've got things in multiple columns. I've got 2 columns at the top, I've got 5 columns across the middle, then I've got 4 columns, and then all of my other stuff is hidden away in these disclosure triangles that I can just leave open if it's something that I'm working on, or close up if it's not. So basically, how do you do that from scratch? That's the question. Okay, let's go and actually do it then. Let's get rid of that as well. Right. So I have Firefox, which has in it, let's get rid of this lot. This is our Notion demo that we've been creating. And in here, we do have weeks. So this is my demo account. It's not my actual account. It's my demo account. My actual account, I'm having a look at it. I do have some weeks. Let's have a look at one, because that's the one I took the screenshot of. We just need to find a week. I think that was week 8, wasn't it? So let's have a look at week 8 and open it as a full page and show you. Right. Let's get rid of the sidebar so we can see a bit more. There's my real week 8. It's wired up to the dates. That's for querying purposes. It's got a week number. It's got attachments to journal days. It's got attachment to the month, the quarter, and the year. Underneath it, this is what you've just seen a screenshot of. And then within there, I have active projects, which won't be an active project. That was the December holiday. But that's because I need to alter the filter. Okay, all of that's automatically filtered. Then I have a master project list, master actions list, and all of my notes, all neatly hidden away under there. So basically, that's what we're going to be building, but we're going to do it from scratch. Right, I'll leave that on the other screen so I can see it for reference. And we'll put it into one of these weeks. So it would probably make sense if it was... Ooh, how about next week? There we go. So obviously that one looks very different from mine, but only in terms of icons and things. Nothing fantastic. Mine was week 8, that's week 5. But only in terms of I haven't added much in the way of icons. But first thing to do when you come in to do this, by default, all the pages are quite narrow. So if you look at where the heading is, the page heading there, by comparison to my page heading, which is over on the left, first thing you need to do is turn the page into a full width page. So in here, full width. All right, now you're working with a good area. Now, one of the questions I got was, do I have to do this every week? Well, the good news is no. If you look down the bottom, it says create a template. You could go in and set this all up as a template first, or you could copy and paste it. I'm going to do it once and then I'll go in and create it as a template later because most of you will be at that stage. But yes, you can make a template, which means you would never have to do it again. If you want to see what that looks like, let's go into Q1. So this is my real one now. Let's go into week 13. Or even where's week 13? Right, and open that up. Right, week 13, you'll notice, not full width. The lost soul below the fold, Kim. That was this time last week, wasn't it? Yeah, because we were out. Right, so the first thing I would do is make that full width. And I actually have a template. Instead of it saying, do you want to create one? I actually have one. So all I need to do is that, and boom, it populates. And it has projects, etc. underneath it. I need to change the queries, but that's it. So the good news is, once you've got the hang of this and you've created something that you want replicable, it's absolutely a doddle to do that. But we're just going to build it in the middle of week 5 at the moment. Right, first thing we need to do is to put in the first item, which for me was goals. There is a reason for that. We will see why after Mike has strutted his stuff. I think I made that a heading 3 from memory. Then I've got tasks, and that was also a heading 3, I think, from memory. Then I used the pipe symbol. Now we're going to be arguing now next, aren't we, over where the pipe is. Fetch the pipe, Mike. But for me, Mike will tell you where it is in America. For me, it's just next to the enter key on the right. So the pipe symbol followed by an explanation. So top 3 goals for the week. And another one that I had was pipe symbol. And that one said tasks to be scheduled. Now this is just informational for me. And you'll notice I'm not putting anything in the way of information in there yet. Shift, oh, they don't make this easy, do they? Shift, Alt and L. Let's see what that does. No, it doesn't do that, I know. No, that's not going to work, Mike. Then you get back to basics with that one. Right, obviously these need formatting, but let's just bang some stuff in. Right, dash, dash, dash gives me horizontal line. Awesome. Next thing I'm going to do is put Monday in. So might as well put all the rest in while we're at it. And you'll notice I'm putting them in capitals, but it's completely up to you how you do that. But I'll put all of them in, so I've got all of the days. And while I wouldn't normally sit here and type stuff in, it's probably important that I do. Select the lot, they're in bold. So I've now got all of those. I put in the type of day, what I want the theme of the day to be, but you don't really need to if you don't want to. I also have carry forward for stuff that didn't get done, and I carry that forward to the following week, and I have notes, weekly notes. I must admit, I don't think I use the weekly notes as much as I thought I might, because if I leave them in this week view, they're difficult to get back to, so it might be better to link to that. Other stuff that I want down here, I want my active projects, which isn't spelt like that. Active projects, I want my master project list. I'd like to see my master areas list. I might want active areas. So let's say active areas. Basically, you can put whatever you want. I'm just literally rapid prototyping this. Just throw the stuff down. It can all be tidied up later. This won't make any sense at the moment because we haven't built it in the other one, but it would make sense to have notes in there and maybe meeting notes.
Paul says above the enter key with shift.
Above the enter key with shift.
Not on this keyboard,
It is. Yes, it is. Over on the right. No, not that far to the right. Down underneath the enter key with the shift. It's next to the shift.
Oh, yeah.
He's found it. Excellent. That's where it is for us. So I'm hoping it's similar for everyone. So I want to see my notes and I want to see meeting notes. So I'm just throwing these down. Your mileage may vary and mine changes every couple of weeks. It's like, oh, wouldn't it be good if I could do X? And then I build that in, right? But that's the basics of what I want. Now we need to start organising it and formatting it. So first thing is goals and tasks were next to each other and they were different colours. So let's have a quick look. That's what it actually looked like. And it couldn't be easier to make it look like that. So we've got everything in there. It's just that that looks far prettier. So let's get that out of the way and let's start organising it. So goals and tasks next to each other. So I'm dragging this tasks all the way over. Now you can see that blue line. The blue line is showing me where it will be when I drop it. And I want that to be over there. And that makes 2 columns. Simple as that. Then I've got my top goals for the week, which at the moment, see the line is full. And I want it to only be underneath goals. So if I move it up, the blue line shows me that's only going to be a half page underneath the goals. And my tasks will be under tasks. Now to format it, the whole thing itself was grey. So the colour of the text was grey. It was grey. Yes, the whole thing was grey. There we go. That's grey too. So colour grey. And just the text, not the pipe, was italic. So Command and I. So just grab that. Right, above it, the goals. The goals were in a gold colour. So I'm guessing that was yellow. The tasks were in red. I think they might have been level 2s. They're looking a bit tiny. Let me have a look. Oh, they are far too tiny, aren't they? They clearly weren't level 3s. They were probably level 2s. So how I'm making them level 2s is Command, Option and 2. Right, then underneath there, I actually had a line. So if I drag that line up, it automatically puts it under the goals bit. Over here, haven't got another line. But if I press enter and do the dash, 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 it makes a line for me. Then there was just a blank to do. And over this end, I put a 1 and 3 X's. And 3 X's and 3 X's. And those are my priorities for the week. The next thing I did was put in another line. But that line is stuck on the left-hand side and I want it to be underneath both of them. So I'm pulling it down until I see that it's full width and then delete anything extra, and I've basically created myself a little section. Then I need to move Tuesday, so it's next to Monday, and Wednesday, so it's next to Tuesday, all the way through to Friday. And every time I drag it across, it scoots it down and gives me an extra column. My Saturday and Sunday are there, but Saturday and Sunday also is on the same line as the carry forward stuff and the weekly notes, like that. Now, obviously, mine looked a little bit different because I had in it, I changed the colour. So we started off with purple. We went through pink to green by Wednesday. And then Thursday was red. And Friday was orange. I just like colours and pickies. And Saturday and Sunday were both blue. There's Saturday, there's Sunday. And these were green. So try and grab those. Green. Now, everything else that was in there was fairly basic. It was a little line underneath, which I can duplicate and drag across. So each one of them underneath the days had a line. And then anything that was the same every week. So for me, that was bin day. Seriously. Bin day. We get very excited about bin day. And I can put links to things as well. So if there's something that I'd like to link through to, I could do that. I also put next to them a date up here. So I would put at, and then I'd find a date. Now, I can't remember what we put in terms of days. Did we put, or what day would that be? The 3rd, wouldn't it? Do we have the 3rd of February? It's quite... Do we? Yeah, we do. There we go. So that puts a link through to that page. So I can go through to the page and start working with the page. Right. Because that's going to be important. Everything's going to pull together. Trust me, it's all going to pull together. These underneath had more lines. So 3 lines under each one of these. Wrong lines. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Right, and that was it for that. I think I then put a line across the whole thing. And then I wanted to pull things through, like active projects. How do I do that with active projects? Well, first thing to do with what I have done is each one of these was a disclosure triangle to make it easy to fold them up. Otherwise, you're going to get overwhelmed. So you can take whatever it is you've got and turn it into something else. And the something else I want to turn it into is a toggle list. That means I can open it up and then put things inside it. So what I actually want is projects. So I want to create a linked database. What's it called? It's called projects. And that's it. It's in the Notion 2020 and it's projects. And I put that in and it comes in. Now, it doesn't look brilliant and there's only one project in it, but hey, we can't have everything, can we? If I go and I add a view, I can add a gallery view. And that's really nice because if I create a gallery view, it comes through and it looks like that. Which means I can go get images for it. So if I click into it, it's got a cover. See there? I've put an image in it, but we can't see it. And that would be nice, wouldn't it? And all of that is to do with the properties of this linked table. At the moment, the card preview is set to the page content, but you can either have no preview, which just scoots it up and it looks like a card. Now, it can look better than that. You could say, I want to see who the client is, and you could say, I'd like to see the due date. You could do all of that. But what we actually want is the card preview to be something that we've put in. And that's what it looks like when you start populating it in that way. And you can fold it up. Now that might make much more sense if I show you. So I'm scooting across to mine to find a suitable page to show you. And that's not a good page to show you. Let's have a look. This is what mine looks like at the moment. So this is a real live thing. It's happening. There we go. There's my projects. I've got an icon representing each one. I've worked on those this week. And this has got all my stuff above this. It looks exactly the same. Where's the mouse gone? Lost the mouse pointer now. There it is. Right, if I go up here, you can see all of the stuff for the week. And below it, I've got other stuff in disclosure triangles. I have my master project list, which is everything that I'm working on right now. We don't want to go there. Those are the things that I need to work on, which is why I've got them in disclosure triangles. I can't do anything with some of those at the moment, so go away. Get off my lawn. I also have every task that I'm going to do, all the comms I need to send out, and all of my notes. And that's exactly what we're trying to build up here. So all of these would be disclosure triangles. So turn them into, where are we? Toggle list. And then all you need to do is exactly the same in each one. / create linked database. That's projects. And I know what you're thinking, you've just put that one in the one above. I did, you're quite right. But this one's going to have a different query on it. This one's going to show me all the projects that aren't archived. But this version of the table is going to show me only the ones that I can work on, which is why we want to fold them up. Then we've got areas. So I would do exactly the same again. Create a linked database. This one is areas. And as I type areas, it scoots it down. There's an areas one. Personally, I would do the same. I would create galleries. I'm a very visual person. So I would call that gallery, create a gallery, do exactly the same. Did that have, that's not the right one. We've got blank ones. It's got a cover in it, but we're not seeing it. So we might need to go into the properties, change the view to cover, and it will populate. Obviously, we've got untitled in here because we've only pretty much started doing that, haven't we? We need more information in it to make it more useful. And finally, the one that we can put in is, what can we put in here? Oh, our master task list isn't there. Master actions list. And we should have another linked table that we can link to. / linked. Create linked database. This one's actions. I think we called it actions tasks or tasks actions. We called it actions. There we go. And there's the actual individual tasks that I can perform. And all of these can be filtered in any way you like. But basically, once you've created it like that, that's how you make the actual page. So, couldn't be easier. But before we head back and do anything else with that, we're going to be heading over for something else after the freebies. Freebies this week, all about education. I've got 3 for you. They are all free right now from Udemy. This is one WordPress websites with the Divi theme. It gets very good ratings, 4.7, so that's pretty good in the ratings department, and it's completely free. 3 hours of training on Divi. But if Divi doesn't ring your bell, how about Affinity Photo? 5 steps to better photos. That one's 2.5 hours of video. And again, the ratings seem pretty good, 4.6. And another one that I found was photo restoration with Photoshop. Now, I know it's Photoshop, but you know, if you watch the demo, it's an hour. Pretty similar to doing it in Affinity. So if you're not a Photoshop user, I think you'll still get some value out of that. So I will hand over to Mike, who's going to show you how he's been printing.
No, you won't. I'm still typing the links.
Oh, well, no, shortly I'll be handing over to Mike. I don't know how much he's going to tell you about Munich 58, but this is something we've been doing for a long time. 2001 we started doing this.
So stop spoiling me thunder.
Well, I was just going to say it used to be easy. It used to be really easy to do what Mike's showing you. All our problems started when we moved to a Mac. So you Windows users there will be laughing your little cotton socks off. You know, I said ClipMate was one of the few things that isn't available on the Mac. There's something else, and I wish it was. Are you going to talk about that?
Mention it.
Right. So I'm going to hand over to Mike, and he can talk about all of it. But before we do that, I need you to be able to see his screen. So let's get his screen across, and then I need you to be able to hear him. So I'll turn his audio on. It's very good of me, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
It's very good of me. Right, so let's get his audio on. You tell him if and when you can hear him.
Mary had a little lamb.
She's still got that little lamb.
Its fleece was white as snow. And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. Can anyone hear me? There we go. I can hear me. So, shall I start?
Oh, feel free. Sorry, I've now got a computer problem with the secondary machine.
Oh, right.
Not the other one, everything's fine, carry on.
Okay, let's make a start. Right, February the 6th, 1958, at 4 minutes past 3 in the afternoon. There was an air crash at Munich Airport in Germany, and 23 of the 44 people on board died, including 8 players from Manchester United. Amongst those who died, there was a number of journalists, a number of other staff from United, and some airline staff. Now, in 2001, as Elaine mentioned, we set up a website called munich58.co.uk. And the purpose of that is to educate those people who were unaware of this tragic story, and also to ensure that the memory of those who lost their lives endures forever. Now, on this website, we have a tribute book. It's like a guest book where people can leave comments and tributes. And since we launched in 2001, we've had over 2,200 entries posted. And what we do each February is we take the printed copy, we print the copy of the tribute book out. It's now over 200 pages, and we make a PDF of it. And then we take the printed copy to the Supporters Remembrance event, which is held every year on February the 6th at Old Trafford. The event is for the fans, by the fans. And actually, a few years ago, we took over the organising of the event. We now work with Manchester United, who have recognised the work that we've done and continue to do so. Back in 2001, there was a handful of people outside Old Trafford on February the 6th. Last year, there was over 1,000. And here's a photo from 2005. As you can see, a handful of people were there to pay their respects. Now, this is one of Elaine's favourite photos, isn't it?
I love that photo.
The photo where Jez has got an aerial sticking out of his head.
That's Richie.
Richie, yes, not Jez, Richie. Richie's got an aerial sticking out of his head. And Elaine uses this photo often to do demos on things like Photoshop and Affinity and taking aerials out of people's heads and stuff like that. Anyway, last year I addressed the crowd. I delivered the opening address and the closing thanks, so I was actually part of this ceremony. Now, if you're wondering what we do with this tribute book, we normally lay it down on the ground where people place flowers. Although last year, as I said, I was part of the ceremony, and I laid the tribute book next to the wreath. And the wreath was actually laid just a minute earlier by the manager of the team. So what I'm going to do today is talk about how we print out the tribute book, because it's not as simple as pressing print. It used to be, as Elaine says, fairly simple, but then we moved to a Mac and it all got quite complicated. The tribute book is actually a WordPress guest book plugin. It's called Gawali Guest Book. It's free, and each tribute book is an entry as a record in a table, and that table is stored in a MySQL database. Now, we've talked quite a lot over the past few weeks about WordPress and about MySQL databases. I did SQL Pro last week, and the database is stored on the server at SiteGround, which is our hosting company, and this table is then created when the plugin is installed. So that's a little bit of the background as to why we do what we do. What I'll do is I'll come out of this presentation and then go on to the demo. So I have here an Excel file, and if I open up this Excel file, what it will have in it is the data from that table. As we saw on the presentation, there's just over 2,200 records or rows of data, and so for each record we have the author name, So when they fill out the form on the website to submit an entry, we ask them for their name. They don't have to put their name in, but the author name, the content, which is what they've actually posted, the tribute. You can see some of those tributes there, quite emotional. And we have the date. We have 2 entries for the date actually, because on the printout I want to display the date as a full date, but that's how it's stored in the, well, it's not actually stored like that in the database, as I'll come on to shortly. What I've done is I've used Power Query, which I have discussed and covered on a previous session. I've used Power Query to connect to the database. But not only have I connected to the database, I've also had to add a number of steps or actions to tidy the data up. And that's one of the things that Power Query does. If I right click on any cell in this table and select refresh, that will then load in. It tells you at the bottom it's running a query. That will then go out to the database and pull in the latest data. So if there had been any new entries added since I last did that, which was about an hour or so ago, they would have appeared, which there aren't, so nothing has been added. And in fact, we have to approve any entries that are added anyway, so there wouldn't be any extra content until we've approved them. But if I click on Query and click on Edit, I will quickly take you through the steps that I've had to add. So that there tells us where the data's coming from. The first thing I did is I removed the columns that I didn't need. So it's brought a load of extra columns in from the database, which I've removed. Then I've added an extra column to calculate the date, because the date as it's stored in the database is stored as a number. It's called the epoch number, and it's the number of seconds since the 1st of January 1970. Once I have added this extra column to calculate the proper date, I've then removed that other date column. I've then set the date column to have a date format, and then I've added that extra column for the full date. I've then sorted it into descending order by date so that we've got the latest entry at the top. And as you would appreciate, most of our comments get added in February. So we're expecting comments to be added in the next week or two as we approach the anniversary of the crash. I've then capitalized each word in the author column, because going through I noticed that some people had typed their name in lowercase. And then I've gone through a whole load of replace values to replace some of the strange characters that you get in HTML that get stored in the database. So when I do a refresh, as I showed you in the previous part of the demo, it actually goes through all of those steps. That's what Power Query does. So at the end, that's how we end up with the data getting from here, which is the raw data, all the way to here, which is the data that I actually want to work with. So let's close that, come out the query editor. So I'll actually close this this Excel file. This is actually going to act as my source. I'm going to do a mail merge. That's how I'm going to create the tribute book. So this will be my source. Obviously this has come from the database, but I can't use the database as the source. One, I can't connect Word directly to it. And two, the data's not in the right format. So I'm using Excel for those two purposes. I'll close that one down. Don't need to save that. Now my starting point was actually last year's tribute book, last year's PDF, which is there. And I wanted to keep the same layout. You can see that we've got this Munich 58 logo down the left-hand side. And that was originally created using 2 apps. I presume that's the 2 apps you were talking about. Yeah, Fine Print and PDF Factory. They're only available for Windows, and they allow you to create custom printouts. I'm sure you can explain later a little bit more about what they do, because I just used something that you'd set up. It's one of those things. Now, when we moved to a Mac, as Elaine said before, things got a little bit harder without, well, a lot harder actually, without these two apps being available. So what I have been doing for about the last 10 years is creating the tribute book using a VM on my Mac. But because I had old copies of Fine Print and PDF Factory, it had to be an old VM running Windows XP. It worked, but I've now got problems with that VM. So I've been forced to find a better solution, which I was intending to do anyway. But basically, the entire process was a nightmare. Now, I could have recreated this layout in Word, but I don't actually have that graphic. I'm assuming that's a graphic, but I needed to do this quickly and I didn't have it. And also I'd have to position it precisely. So I've come up with another way of doing it. So I'll close that PDF. What I'm going to do is open up Word, and Word, certainly Word on Windows, Word on the Mac can do it as well. Although when I tried this on Word for Mac, it popped up a message that said it was going to take my PDF and upload it to an online service. Now, this online service could well have been a Microsoft online service, I don't know, but I didn't totally trust it, so I thought I'd stick with the Windows version. So what I'll do is I'll click Open, and I'll navigate my way to my desktop, and I'll open this PDF here. It tells me that it's going to convert my PDF to an editable Word document. Word has had this functionality since, I think, 2013. So click on OK, and it starts converting into an editable Word document. It shouldn't take too long, but how long it takes will depend on how much data we've got in that file. So it's nearly done. As I said, most of this that I'm going to show you now can actually be done on the Mac. So if you've got Microsoft Office for Mac, it should be okay. Come on, we're nearly done. I really want to press Escape to cancel, just in case it cancels the whole thing. It was faster than this in rehearsal. Oh, it's done. It's done. It's done. Great. I don't have to waffle on too much in that case. Right. So here we go. This is opened up the PDF, but it's now an editable Word document. So if I press Control and A or Command and A and press that, will select all the text in the document, and press the delete key. That deletes all the text and just leaves me with one page. What I will now do is save this file, and I'm going to save it as a Word document. I'm not going to save it back as a PDF. So I'll just do File, Save As. It's on my desktop, and I will call it, where am I? Munich 58 Tribute Book Template. Save it as a Word file. To do the mail merge, you click on Mailings, Start Mail Merge. Now, normally, if you're doing a mail merge, you'd either go for labels or you'd go for letters. Now, if you do letters, that will actually create one page, and this is an A4 page, one page per entry. So we'd end up with 2,200 pages in this document, which obviously isn't what we want. So if you want to create a mail merge without the breaks, without the page breaks, select Directory. Once I've done that, I'll then go back to the mail merge options, and this time I'll click Select Recipients, Use an Existing List. And the list I want to use is that Excel file, which is there. And in this Excel file, what it's done is it's found two entries. The top one is the page, and the second one is the table within the page. Now, it doesn't actually matter which I use, because on that worksheet in the Excel file, there's nothing else except the table of data. So it doesn't really matter which I'll use, but I'll use the actual worksheet and click on OK. The next thing is to then insert what are called the merge fields. So it's looked at the headings from row 1 of the spreadsheet and it's set those up as fields. So what I want to do is I want to insert first of all the content, because the content's the one that's got the actual content in it, the actual text of the submission. And then I'm going to put in a new line just by pressing enter, and I'm going to insert merge field again and select the author name, add a colon and a space, and then insert the full date. And then I want to make the author and the full date bold. And let's just check the font size. Yeah, they will do. It's actually brought that font size across from the PDF. But I do want a blank line there. So just add in a blank line so that it creates a blank line after each entry. So after each combination of content and author and date. And then let's test it out. So go back to mailings. Go to Finish and Merge and select Edit Individual Documents. And it's now, there we go. That actually looks maybe a little bit, no, I don't think that's too big. That's the correct font size. So what we've now got is we've now got the content, the name, and the date, and a space, and then the next content. That is part of that content. I don't know why that's in a different font. I'll have to check that later. Then the person who posted that, and then the next content, and the person who posted that, and so on. Now let's close that down. I don't want to save that one because that's the output. But what I do want to do is select this paragraph, go to the Home tab, click the little arrowhead, sorry, the paragraph one, not the font one, click the little arrowhead against paragraph, and I want to change some settings. I want to remove the spacing after, and I also want to tick keep with next and keep lines together. And if you tick keep with next, it'll make sure that Word doesn't insert page breaks between paragraphs. And if you tick keep lines together, it'll stop Word inserting a page break within the paragraph. So do the same thing for this one. This is, although I've got two fields on the same line, they are treated as a paragraph. So do the same thing here. It just makes sure that it doesn't split somebody's comment over two pages, over a page break. So I'll save that. Then I will run the mail merge again, and it should be a little bit tighter. It also will take up less pages. There we go. Might be a little bit too tight actually. I should probably insert a little bit of space after the name and date, so I can go back and do that. But that is a lot easier than the way I used to do it. It was a lot of messing around. All I need to do now is, before I print it out, do a refresh in the Excel file, come back into this file, which I will save, and then just rerun the mail merge a lot faster. So that is it. That is how to produce the tribute book. I don't see any questions on there.
I thought my thing had died because I'm not seeing anything since Kim.
No, maybe Kim's the only one that's put a comment.
Yeah, could well be. Right, let's get back the audio. Grab the audio from
and the video.
Okay, I'm back. Yes, I did leave you broadcasting at one point, didn't I? But I won't do that now. Promise. Right, let's get back where we were. Which was part 3 of our Notion deep dive. Yes, planning 2020. Well, actually, planning with Notion 2020 vision. Right, so where are we up to? Let's have a recap. Who's up to date with their homework? Let me know in the chat. Right, we started off with building a core system to track time. That involved 5 databases, 5 tables. There was months, quarters, weeks, days, and years. I even provided icons. Although you'll notice my month icons actually red, because I hadn't made the orange one at the time. And my days are red, but never mind. We then linked them together. But we didn't go quite that crazy and do all of the links that you could have done. But the links are up to you. What made sense for you? Then last time we added in the ability to track projects and tasks. Who remembers that? We did it by adding 3 more tables. Oh, can Affinity Publisher do mail merge? No, Jonathan, no. Unless what you want to do is really simple. I did demo that. It was an early after hours. Mike will find it, won't you, Mike? There was something else you were supposed to be finding. You'll have to go back in the chat. The only way I could find to have different content on each page automatically was the page number. So I kind of made the page number mean something else and then did a faux mail merge with it. But no, it's not. If not, could always do the cover in Affinity and attach it to Word. Oh dear. I'm sure it's something they're working on. They brought Affinity Publisher out and then realised, this is in beta, and then realised it was nowhere near ready. They thought it was a few weeks off being ready. And they got so many complaints about stuff it didn't do that they started to try and add most of that before it was released. They did not get to mail merge, but they did add in grep. So there's a possibility that the mail merge will be here sooner rather than later. I am glad that you are up to date, Kim. I am sure you are. So we added projects, tasks, and areas last time. This time, we're going to extend that core system. Now, I've picked another 3 things to add. So it's plus another 3. The 3 I've gone for are notes, meeting notes, and meals. Meals seems to be something people love to track. Meeting notes I find incredibly important. Mike and I put a system in place in the middle of November. It all went to heck in a handcart in December because he wasn't here, so it was difficult to have a meeting. But I've dragged him back kicking and screaming to the concept, and he's now warmed to it greatly. So meeting notes don't necessarily need to mean boring work meeting notes. It could be other stuff. So I've decided that I'll show meeting notes. The other one I've gone for is notes, and I've done that on the basis that a lot of people moved to Notion being told it's the next Evernote. It's not Evernote. Notion is a million times more than Evernote claims to be. But if you have moved to Evernote, from Evernote to Notion, and you will have all these notes, and you will need to know what to do with them, how to handle them. So I picked those 3, but I could have picked another 30. You could have gone any way with this. So if your needs are slightly different than that, so let me know in the chat, those are the 3 I'm thinking of adding. What would you like your Notion system to be able to handle? So I'm going to go and build that. I'm going to use some of their templates. I'm going to start from scratch with some of them. If you've already imported notes, you could use that. So really showing you just how infinitely flexible Notion can be. But I'm hoping to take this up to a point that I pull it together sufficiently that a light bulb goes on in your head and you think, that's why there's all those tables and that's how they work and that's amazing. So that's where I'm aiming for. So keep chatting to me. I know you like to concentrate, but I need to know that you're still awake. That's always good. Right, where are we going? We're going into there. So this was what we'd built. And we were at the point of the first 5 tables being there. Looks like we built another 4 tables in there, and these are the extensions that I considered. So reading books, food, so food stroke meals, podcasts, so listening to podcasts, notes and meeting notes. So I think the one I'll start with is notes, so we'll put that at the top. But if you can think of any others, shout them out. Right, so we'll start with notes. Now, where you put these is completely up to you. What I've been doing in here... Oh, Jonathan's still awake. Excellent. He's living over that coffee shop, isn't it? Right. I've been putting them in here. So these are the actual years, the actual quarters, the actual months, and the actual days. So what I was doing was converting these into a database. Now, first thing to think about at this stage, because everything we've built up to now is fairly proprietary. Fairly proprietary. In terms of, we've not used any of the built-in things. We've done them all by hand. But now you could potentially save yourself time. Genealogy research, you need to figure out how to work it in. I know there are people doing that. I don't claim to be any kind of expert with that at all. Very tiny family. We do have a friend who's done genealogy for years and absolutely red hot with it. She's traced Mike's family back to 1066 all across the planet. She's amazing. So I know there's a lot of specialisation involved in that, but anything that you learn, you can look at something about. The classic example we give is pig farming. If you're wondering why, there was a training course a good few years ago, and it was to train trainers like us to be able to talk about anything. And one was baking a cake and one was pig farming. And I screamed holy heck with Mike and said, but I'm a subject matter expert and I can't talk about pig farming. But as you well know, I can talk about anything for a long amount of time. Right, notes. This can give you a head start. So think about it in terms of that. Yeah, so you've got multiple people in here doing the same thing. And what I'd say is, it's a specialisation. If you've got the skills in that area, there's nothing to stop you looking at one thing, pig farming, and finding something from it that you can think, oh, that would work if I did X and Y. So you could certainly link up tables of people in any kind of way you like, any kind of way that makes sense. And once we get into actually building the individual notes, maybe you can see how you could put the information about a single person into a single item in Notion. So the top half of the item would provide the database style links, and then the bottom half would have documents in it and photographs in it and notes in it. So reaching the extensions to the core system, I'm going to head off in a different direction. So a way that we haven't gone so far with the 2 weeks of core systems that we've done, which is every system has over here templates. So every Notion account has access to templates. And when I first started with Notion, you would click on a template and there was a handful of them. There are a lot more now, and they're much better. I doubt, and I actually wouldn't recommend, that you take one of these templates and just run with it. I would suggest you pull it apart and think, does that really suit me? Does it fit? By all means, start with one and then change it. But if you build your own, you'll know how everything works. But if one of these is absolutely what you want, then go with it, as long as you understand how the whole thing is put together. So this one that we're looking at is a syllabus to a course. Happens to be a history course. Notion provide free accounts for students, completely free, unlimited accounts. So because of that, they've put in some education stuff, so it's a head start. And from what I remember about university, that's the kind of stuff we had. We didn't have email back then. It was sort of quill pens and tablets of stone. But it's the kind of thing that I would imagine that you would need. But again, your mileage may vary with the specifics that they've built, but just showing you what is actually available in here. So they start off with design. So there's roadmaps. So really these are for developers, epics, sprints, tasks, bugs, and it's all on a board here. So if you've seen a Kanban board in a development office, it's that, but it's digital. There's user research. That's what I'm saying about I doubt any of these are going to be bang on point, but some might not be a million miles away. Design tasks, for example. Now, one of them is meeting notes, and I said to you, meeting notes, down the line, we're not doing that one first, but we'll come back and have a look at that and see if it would be any good. Design systems is actually quite useful. Now, the thing to think about with this is, as I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, a brand guideline. Could I put that into Notion? I'd need to know more than I can see there. You know, what is that? It's got typography, it's got tone and voice. Okay, you know, but there's little icons over here, there's dates. I'd have to change all of that. But this is live. So it's a complete live preview that you can interact with. So there is a design system board, gallery there. You can go into completely different views. So you've got your list view that we started with. You've got your by status. So some things are current, some need updating, some are in progress. It's all a different view of the same information. But the point being, the templates allow you to interact with them. So what does the logo look like? Well, I can go in and have a look. There's the primary logo. There's the PNGs that I can just drag out. There's the SVG. There's the secondary logos. Here's what the social branding looks like. Everything is in one place. I always find these things amazing and then think, there's only you dealing with it. You don't need to worry about it. And then at the most inopportune moment, Michael say, have you got the branding for X? And I'll be like, why didn't you take the time and put it into Notion? So very, very useful for you to actually interact with it, go backwards and forwards with it before you even install it on your system. That's the design ones. Then you've got education. So there's lots under education because of their push into the education space. So loads of stuff in there. I would certainly take a look at lesson plans and things like that and think if they got any benefit to me. Right. Then you've got engineering. You'll notice that some of these, like the meeting notes, appear in multiple categories. They're not different. They're exactly the same. If you look at the type of meeting, you can see in the design one up here, it's exactly the same, just a different order. There's a to-do list. Again, there's roadmaps. So we're looking for notes. Just notes. It's very simple. Notes. And you'll see in here, we're still back to meeting notes. There's documents. Would that do? Maybe, maybe not. Is there anything in sales? Well, there's a sales wiki. Probably not, because these are all separate pages. So basically, have a look in here first. But for something like notes, that there is one there, personal. Now, would that do you any good? So have a look at it, see what views are built into it. So all of them are important ones. Maybe, maybe not. Let's have a look inside one. So it's got created by, edited, and the tags. And then the rest of it's blank. So to be honest with that, it might be a start. But on the other hand, if you build it from scratch, you'll be absolutely sure. Now, what you're looking at there is a selection of the templates, but there is also the ability to go and have a look at the full template gallery. The difference between the two is the ones you've just seen, Notion have built. But this page includes ones from the community. And you can click that and get taken down to the ones from the community. And from there, you've got weekly planners, personal planners, Christmas planners, you name it. Getting things done. Hobbies. I do remember that one coming out. It's an index to all of the Pokemon characters. Really? Yeah, it is apparently. So there's all sorts in here. And these are from people who've actually built it and are using them. Even though I would still say, think about it. Is there anything in there that does work for you? There's a bullet journal there. Do you want to use a bullet journal method? But nothing is going to be as good as you build for yourself. So for the notes one, we're going to leave that alone and we're just going to go back to here and build a notes one. And I'm going to do that by converting that into a page, which is Command, Option and 9. And now we've got a page. Go into the page. You know the drill. First thing to do, make it full width. And then you're going to need an inline table. So we'll make an inline table. And that is where all of your notes are going to live. notes. Now, I have a note system of my own. I'm going to quickly whiz across to it and see if I can get that on the screen. Where did I put my notes? I've got them embedded all over the place, but let's see if I can get back to the original notes and show you the notes. I think I can. Interesting. Right, I'll show it you in a live page. Can't say fairer than that, can I? Right, this is my system. These are all the disclosure stuff that I've just shown you. So my active projects, they are my active projects. I've got my master projects, seen those. And in here, I have my notes. And those are all, I'll just click away, but they are all of my notes. I have it, so I have a preview. So there's my Photomagico notes. And what I've put in there is the actual videos and all the press releases and stuff. But I've also got it in here, so it's previewing the content, and I can actually see the content. Okay? So that's what we're trying to create. So if we use that one as an example, what information did I put in there? And mine's slightly different. I think it's important to have a date. I think it's important to have tags. I never use files, but on the off chance, I left it alone. But for me, I wanted an original source. My original source is because I've consolidated all of the notes that I had in Bear, Google Keep, Post-it notes on the desk, and my ARC, my manual paper-based notebook. So I want to know where they originally came from. I could actually add to that, and I'm surprised it's not already there. I've been consolidating from OneNote as well. So I might want to have that, have OneNote on it, and OneNote would be purple, because OneNote's colour is purple. I have no idea why Google Keep is purple, but we could make that green. There we go. And that one came straight from Notion. Right, so that's what I do with it. That's probably a good one to start with then. So Notion always gives you exactly the same fields. And name, it's as good as anything else, I guess, isn't it? Doesn't really matter. But that's going to be, it might make sense to change that to title, because it's going to be a title of a note. Do you need tags? I left the tags in. Need files? Maybe, maybe not. But I definitely wanted source. So very simple to come across to here. It's only ever going to come from one source. So I want it to be a select. So let's say I'm putting in some notes about, iBooks author. Now, when iBooks author was about, I can tell you exactly where those notes would be. They would have come from Evernote. So let me create Evernote as a source and change the colour of that to green. They came from Evernote. And then I would put in there what the notes were actually in this bit at the bottom. But I'm still missing a few things. One thing I'm missing is the date. Now, what date is it? Well, I'd like to just see a date that this note was created. So I'm just going to put date, change the format to date, but then make sure I change the actual format of the date to my time zone. Otherwise, it's American and I get very confused. Right, so I've put a date in there. Now, this note, is that today's date? Not necessarily. It could be when it first came out. And I happen to know that I did some work on that, and it would have been around the end of January. Hang on, come back. But it would have been 2012. So by adding that date myself, rather than relying on a created date, which would always be today, I can put in the actual date that it originally, the note was made. The source of it is more important, so I can organise these like that. But I'm going to do a demo of that. I'm thinking of revisiting iBooks Author. It's its 8th birthday this week. So make some notes. 8 years since release. Good night, Marcus. See you next time. Time for a revisit. And I'd probably also there be looking to compare the features of Pages with iBooks Author. So I've put some notes in it. Is that all I need? I'm going to leave you hanging with that. I want you to tell me, is there anything else I need to put in there? Obviously for tags, I might be looking to put in a tag of MacBytes. because I'm going to do it for Map Bites or After Hours. So let me put in a tag of After Hours as well, which would make sense if that was blue, because that's that right colour. I might put more than that in. I might have, it depends what tag system you use. I might do, I might not. But is there anything else critically missing from in there? And I'm going to leave you with that while we sort out the next one. Is it still updated? Do you mean iBooks Author? Not been updated in years. Not updated in years. I think their ultimate plan is to put the features and functionality in it into Pages, but they've not really done that either. So who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. I think Apple are taking the approach it's good enough for schools and they're the ones using it. It's sad because it was a very good thing, but... Right, project the note is associated with. Excellent, Paul. Yes, you need to be thinking now, how do you want to find this note? Think about discoverability. Oh, you need a status. Excellent. We'll put a status in then. And what would your status be? Like live? Would it be a select? Would it be a multi-select? What kind of status would you put on a note? I guess you could have archived. If I was doing archived, I'd probably put archived and make that a toggle. That would at least give you a way of excluding it from searches. But status, let me know what kind of status you put on your notes. And then let's get that files thing out of the way. I'm thinking of something specific, and I know why you're not thinking of it, but we're going to come back to that. So you have a think and put it in there while we go and make the next database. So back up to Notion, and this time we're working on our meeting notes. Now, Mike and I, this is the one occasion we used a template. And I can tell you exactly why we used a template. Do you remember why we used a template, Mike?
No.
It was one of the only occasions tinkering with the system was less significant than actually getting the job done. That doesn't happen often. We love tinkering with the system. So what I did was I came into here, and I think it was one of these, isn't it? I think they all pretty much had meeting notes in. And what we did was we looked at it and said, right, is this going to work for us? So we looked at list view, and that was all a bit blah. Maybe, maybe not. Let's have a look by meeting type. Okay, now I can clearly see that some of these are stand-up meetings, some are weekly syncs, ad hoc meetings, retrospectives, user interviews. Curious. Now, that's probably because user interviews make sense in marketing. If we went to sales and there were meeting notes, and we went to the meeting type, customer interviews, first meeting. So they're different types of them. Although there is meeting notes, templates in all of these categories, they're going to be slightly different. So make sure you pick the right one, or at least have a think about it. I can't remember which one we went for because we edited it completely, but it wouldn't have been sales. And what's under support? That's the kind of thing we would have gone for. Now that's saying by meeting type again, and they are very similar, but I noticed, have we got anything for personal? Do we have meeting notes? We've got blog posts. No, doesn't look like we do. But if we go back to that sales one and look at the meeting notes, there were 3 views. There's one for my meetings. So that actually gives you another view. So I reckon we should go with that one from sales because we're going to change them anyway. But it just gives you a starting point, something to have a play around with. So let's use this template. Now, what it does with it is it puts it at the top level of the private section of your Notion. So the first thing I'm going to do is move it into our 2020 and put it in the right place. Drag it up to just underneath notes. And I can now delete that, telling me I need to make one for meeting notes. And I've even got a pretty little icon there. Oh, good evening, Tracy. Good to have you with us. We are into part 3 of our Notion thing. We've just created a meeting notes system from a template. So let's get rid of that so we can see it. Right, that's the list view. And then there's our meeting types. Now, they're not the meeting types I need. So what I'm going to do at this point is look at the meeting types that Mike and I have. So I'm heading off to look what we went with. The first one, so this customer interview here, we'd rename that, and that would be our daily stand-up. Now, if you don't understand these terms, why would we have a stand-up meeting? What's going on? We use a system, Agile Scrum. You may have heard the term Agile, you may have heard the term Scrum. Basically, it's a development methodology, and we use it for MacBites and other projects that we work on. And one of the core tenets of the system is that every day you have a daily stand-up meeting. And what it is, in fact, we haven't got one there, have we? Let me just have a look and see if I can create one and then show you what's actually in it. Let me make a new daily stand-up. Right, this is what a daily stand-up looks like for us. So I've just made that, right, just created it right now. And that would be daily stand-up. And it would have a date on it. So there's today's date. And I do put the date in, so it would be then as well. And it's got the created time, it's got the last time it was edited. I have them showing, but I just put them in, I think, for inclusion's sake. But I do have the date up there. That's the date I'm interested in. All right. And then it says change the title to include the date, which I have done. And then this is what we found in the template that we started with, which is those, which is literally just what did we do today? What are we going to do tomorrow? What might stop us getting it done? And the last item, which is the action items, to make sure that what we're going to do tomorrow gets done. It's pretty simple. So I'm going to copy that and hopefully be able to paste it into a stand-up meeting here. So let's call that one daily stand-up and put the date in. Open it up. And what do we have down there? I saw some templates. We have some templates. We have a quarterly business review, a retrospective, customer interview, first meeting and prospect meeting. So we don't have the one I'm talking about, but we could make a new template. We could call it stand up. The participants tend to be the same, but obviously in here it's not Elaine and Mike because this is the demo account, but we'll put MacBites in there. And then just try and paste it in. There we go. So we've taken stuff from one workspace, pasted it into another and made a type of it. And obviously this one needs, there's the stand-up. Stand-up should go at the beginning. It's a stand-up meeting there. So we've now got a template as well. So let me go back. This is my daily stand-up for today. And now I've got templates here and there's my stand-up template. So I can click that. And now my actual meeting has an agenda. And it's in my stand-up. And I can do exactly the same for tomorrow. Let's go into that. There's two ways to actually do that. One is to do what you've just seen me do. So stand up, put in the date, which is tomorrow. Put the participants in again, choose the type of meeting as a stand-up. And we've got one for the next day. Apart from the fact I didn't put daily stand-up. Right, daily stand-up. I'm just going to copy that for speed. The other way to do it is to choose new but hit the drop down and choose stand up as an option. Put in the date, that's going to be the next one, which is the 27th. And I need to be changing dates as well, don't I? But never mind, let's put that in there. Right, so now I've got 3 meetings. I wouldn't have a first meeting either. The ones that Mike and I use, we don't do that one. Not together, we don't. We do a weekly sync. A weekly sync meeting is making sure you're where you should be at every week. Then, that one can change into that one. We have a monthly sync. It's a lot of meetings, isn't there? But it works all right. So let's put that one next to that. And that one. And the other two we have is a retrospective and sprint planning. So again, these are all to do with a design methodology that we use, but not Spirit. No, that's a whole different thing. Sprint planning, right. But your meetings could be completely different. Could be a family meeting. Could be any kind of meeting. But point being, you've created that from a template, so you had a real good head start with it. You've got other views, so that's your meeting type, but you can use your list view. You want to do a list view. And you can change how all of these work. So if we go into My Meetings, it knows that this is MacBites, hence the M. But if you wanted to change the filter on that, you could say, meetings for Mike, Andy Lane, or you can change it in any way you like. But you've used a template to start out and create it. The one view, let's have a look. We've got a list, a board. Let's add a new view. Let's say we wanted a calendar view to see when the meetings are. You can create that and your meetings will be displayed on it. I've put them all on the same day. Let's correct that. It's much faster to do that, isn't it? Now, is this because the date's not there? So there's no date for that meeting. I'm assuming, why would they do that? I added this to the other one, didn't I? I'm assuming they're assuming you're putting the thing in at the top, or you're only creating the agenda at the point of the meeting, which isn't true. Right, I'm going to leave those blank. And it's showing it by created. I want to see it by date. And now it's disappeared completely because they haven't got a date. Okay, so let's fly around and fix it. That one's the 27th. So let's put the 27th in. That one's the 26th. The 26th in. 2 more to do. 25th. And this objectives meeting, which when should we put that in? 29th, like we've not got enough to do. And now, because you've put the date in it, they appear on a calendar like that. So that was creating it from a template. So any changes you want to make to it, you can do. I tend with mine, and I think meetings are an exception to this, but one of the things I do is to create a gallery view. I'm very visual and I like to see different colours. But if all you did with it was assign a colour to it, that would give you a brief overview of your meeting as well. So if in that one there, so that one's today, isn't it? What did we do today? We did MacBites After Hours. Right. What are we doing tomorrow? What are we doing tomorrow, Mike? More MacBites work. There you go, MacBites work. Potential blockers, the will to live. Can I put that? Oh, we're going to get up too early. Right, let's say we need to update Notion. I'll get deep into my Notion system and nothing else will get done at all. But the beauty of it is, with this preview, you can see there how much you get a nice preview to view it. In fact, if you go into the properties, you can change the card size to large, and that way you'll see even more of the meeting. So it works very, very nicely, all of that. There's obviously a lot more in that one over there. But that didn't exist in the template as you started it, but you can change that in any way you like. So far so good, apart from the fact that my machine is acting up something chronic. It's telling me I'm offline, which clearly I'm not. I think there's something Wi-Fi-ish going on. I'll get Mike to deal with that. It's my laptop that's telling me that, so it's something Wi-Fi related. Never mind. I can't see the chat. That's my only issue. What I will do, you can still see what I'm doing here. I will go into here and I will do the YouTubey thing. In fact, I can probably get that from over here. Let me get the link to this and blow the internet's mind. Right, where's the live link for this? It is there. Now, this is a good example, actually, of you're in the middle of a live session. The house Wi-Fi, not happy, but because I've got all of this meta details here, there is the link to YouTube. So I've copied and pasted it. I'll click on there, and I should see everybody in the chat. I think the Wi-Fi is acting up. Can you go and unplug the conservatory on and plug it back in? That was the one that it was getting giddy with. So I'm putting that off screen, bringing that back on. That way I can see the chat. Yay, I can see the chat. Right, so the last one I've got is Tracy. So don't know what's wrong with my other machine, but I can see the chat on that one now. Right, so that was doing it from a template. Now, no one said... Paul said the project the note's associated with, liking that one, Paul, and a status, but you've not said what the sort of status is. So is it like a time-based status? What sort of status is it? Let me know. But you still not mentioned the one that I thought of. But let's head back into Notion. And there was one more I was going to create. So we've done 2. Last one's food. Let's have a look in the templates what we can do with food. Is there anything food related? And I think in here the only option would be under food. Would be under personal. And there's nothing recipe or food related there at all. This is a case to go view the full gallery, because I know there's some beautiful ones that people have put together here. Let's go right down to the bottom and work up from there. So work-based ones, freelancing, hiring, product design. No, they're altered. Here we go. Food. So there's a recipe box, there's a recipe book, there's a food diary, and food preparation. So which one do you go for? Well, what I'd do is open them all, and at this point be very disciplined. Say to yourself, what am I actually tracking? Am I tracking to make sure that I have a range of food? So it's actually recipes I want to track. Now that one hasn't actually got any in. So they built the system, but there's, here we go. There they are. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's gorgeous. But is that what you want to track? Is it that you want an online version of a cookery book? Is it inspiration that you're after? Are you trying to track maybe for weight loss or muscle building? What are you doing it for? Because the danger is you go into there and think, oh, that's gorgeous, I want that. I don't know about you, but I'm not eating caramelised salmon. Salmon, yes. Caramelised, no. Maybe you're vegetarian, maybe you're not vegetarian, maybe you're vegan. So honestly, you're going to have to make a lot of changes to that. It is beautiful. It's gorgeous. But is that relevant for you? Maybe not. Depends. So let's have a look at the next one, which is a recipe book. I'd imagine that's going to be fairly similar. Indeed, you look at it, it looks fairly similar. Right, food preparation. So this one's probably going to have... This one is trying to track buying groceries. Maybe that's what you're doing it for. So whether you go into here, into the templates, to actually use one of the templates, or whether you're just going to get clarity for what you are actually doing, it is useful to go in and have a look at them. Because it's all too easy to think, I'll track food, without actually stopping and defining, track it in what way? Buying it, cooking it, eating it, what are you tracking? Some of these will have calorie values, others won't. That could be important. You can always use these as a starting point if one's almost there, but if not, then start your own. So this one's tracking what was eaten by day. And there's a view on that of weeks. Mike and I did one of these way back, and it looked more like that. If we were designing it now, it would look very different. So that's what I mean when I say be very careful. If you design it like that, apart from the fact like there's no pretty pictures, but you could take photos and put them in and just add a field, you could do that. But the thing with it is you may reach a point where you can't have the view that you want. So it just depends. But do take a look at the templates. They'll give you great ideas. In terms of what we want to do with it, well, I'd say track what was eaten what day. And I'm torn now with whether I start with one of these templates or not. I've no idea what yield means, for instance. Not a clue. Could be calories, I've no idea. But let's say, because this one's got some stuff in it, I could potentially start with that. My only problem, and this is something you may have to think about until you've made the decision that yes, Notion's where it's at and you're going to pay for an account, is back in my demo account, I have to be quite careful. If I go into my settings and members, I'm at 34% of my block limit. That's no, 46% of my block limit. And that happened by adding in templates. And I don't want to hit the 1,000, do I? And there's so much in some of these that it's quite conceivable that I would. So I'm going to leave all of them alone, no matter how pretty they are, because I want to be able to demo more things with you. So food, I need to make a database. So first of all, I'll turn it into a page. I'll go into it. I'll make it full width. The exciting bit's going to come up after this. So don't lose the will to live in the meanwhile. Right, we need a database in it. So an inline Inline database. Come on, inline table. And this is food. It could be food, menu, planning, whatever you want to call it. But basically, I'm going to put in here dishes. So, what's one of our favourites, Mike?
Sour chicken.
You see that? I started typing sweet and sour chicken. Chicken bowls. They're our favourites. Right. What else do we like? I like fish. Should we put salmon?
Yeah.
Salmon with...
Mixed veg.
I was going to put asparagus, actually. Right, and what's one of our other favourites?
Steak.
Steak. You can see we're not vegetarian. Steak and mixed vegetables. Right, so we've now got food. Is this doing us any good at this point? Well, probably not. I think you definitely want to put a gallery in because you're going to put pretty pictures on it, aren't you? Ah, lovely. But what are you tracking? Are you tracking cooking it or are you tracking consumption? And if you're tracking consumption, how? There's a question. You've still not answered the last one, guys. Yield is how many servings? Oh, cool. You see, I don't do the kitchen thing. No. But thank you for that. Now I know. Oh, feel good now. That would be useful if it was recipes. But if what I'm tracking is what days we ate which food, so do you know what else is missing off here that we definitely need, Mike? A full English breakfast. Oh, we definitely need that. Right. You could, with the tags, put in whether it's dinner, lunch, breakfast, snack. You could have that separately. You could have mealtime. It's so flexible. It's brilliant, but at the same time, it can be scary because you're thinking, I can do that 9 ways, which is the right way. And there isn't really a right way. There's the right way for you. So those are the 3 databases that I've got, the ones I've added. But what's the problem at this stage? Let's have a look at them. They are all standalone. They are not linking in with anything else. So far, Paul's the only one who's made a suggestion, which is to put notes attached to projects. We can do that. Here's how you do that. You see, if you'd have shouted out, I would have done your demo. So you need to put in there how I can link these. But let's say we've got a note in here. We've got the iBooks author note. But let's say we've got another note. So let's say next week I'm going to look at Edge extensions. I said I'd research extensions for Edge and how you can get them installed. I've got 1Password working, which is fantastic. So yes, that's right. Now, source of that note. It didn't come from Evernote. It went straight into Notion. So I'll create a Notion thing for it. I'm making the note today. So I'll put that in today. Never got an idea. What status do we want? Well, I'll leave that because I don't know. And then I'm going to put the notes at the bottom. So show Edge extensions. Edge extensions in... Oh, let me show you an autocorrect, which is MacBites After Hours. MB After Hours. There you go. Right. So that belongs to the project After Hours. Now, does the After Hours project exist? Which is why this is so much better when you've got a load of data in it. But let's go into the projects. We want a project. We've got 2 projects. We've got the brochures project. This is what I'd actually do. I would make a gallery for projects and I would make sure that there's lots of images. And that way it's really easy to work with. I need to see the properties and I need to use the cover for the project. So I've got the tribute book and the brochure. They are 2 different things. I'm going to make a new project. This one is going to be MacBites After Hours, and it's next week, which is 61. The due date for that is next Saturday. It's a Saturday show, people. The status of it is not started. The client, that's fairly simple. That's MacBites. Why have I got 2 MacBites clients? No idea. Actions, and I need to put something in for that. I need a cover, and I actually happen to have... This is my folder that's got all the artwork in for my covers. So I'm looking for the MacBites cover, but it's an After Hours, so it should be the After Hours artwork. Right, so I've now got a project. And what we're saying is we want the notes to be attached to the project. Okay, so Kim's got status as in progress, completed, etc. I tend not to do that with notes. That's interesting. I might have archived or something like that, or transferred. But whatever works for you. Right, so in our project, we want to have a link to the notes, and there's no link to the notes. But if I click on add a property, and I go in and choose relation, I can relate the projects database to the notes. And we've got notes and we've got meeting notes, but we're going to put it in there, in notes, and then create the relation between them, and then change the title so it can say related notes or just notes, it doesn't matter. And then I need to pick the notes, and I can do that in two ways. I can either go in and choose the note from there, so this is the Edge extensions, or I could do it from the other end. So let's say that I'm working in the actual notes instead. So I'm not thinking of a project at this stage, I'm in the notes. And I'm in my iBooks author note, and I'm thinking, oh, might be a good idea to cover this in After Hours. That is the backlink, so it says related to projects. And I would just change that to projects. And what I can say is, yep, I want to relate this to the After Hours project. And there it is. It doesn't matter which way round you link it. There you go. Now, back in the notes table, I'm going to put some more content in for next week. So, Notion notes for part 4 of Notion 2020. And obviously I might take the time and put that it's for MacBites and After Hours, and that was for MacBites and After Hours, and the source of it was Notion, and I'll probably put in the date that I made it was today. You get the idea. And I want that to be related. And what else might I do next week, Mike? What are you thinking of doing? Is there any follow-ups we're definitely doing next week? We're struggling now, aren't we? Did anything come on? What did I say that we'd look at? This would be a good time to shout it out, wouldn't it? Let me have an actual look. Where's next week's show? What have I got planned for next week's show? It's going to be alarmingly empty. Mike's going back to Excel. I know what I was going to do. I was going to do GTD next week. Right, so GTD theory. Not as dry as it sounds. No, not theory. Theory. Right. And that's for MacBites and After Hours as well. And it was created in Notion, and it was created... There's lots been created. I'll say that wasn't. I'll say that was earlier. Right. So I've got lots of notes now, and they're not attached in any way. You can tell that in here by the projects at the end. So let me attach them to next week's show. Now that's great as far as it goes, but there's a problem. How do I discover these notes? Do I have to go and track them down and then find out what project they're related to? Well, no. You've already seen, if we go into the projects, we've got this lovely view. We can go into After Hours. Lovely. And there are all the notes. Now, your problem's going to come when you've got more notes. So let's see what happens when you've got more notes that you've attached to an individual project. So I'm going into notes, and I'm just going to put in, I'm going to number them now. So note 1, note 2, you know what's coming, don't you? I need to have at least 7 notes, I think, for this to break. And when I say break, it's doing what's intended for a reason, but you will need a way to work around it if you're going to get the most out of this. So I've got 5. I think I'm going to need 7. Now, some of you have already hit this problem. You've hit it in a different way. So I've got my 7 notes. I'm selecting the lot. I'm going to change a property, which is the project that it's related to. And I'm going to relate them all at once to that project. And you can see in here, I'm going to make that a little bit wider. You can see they're all related, and you could filter them. All right. Your issue is when you go back to the other end and you're working with your project, it should only show you the first 10. And then it says one more, which isn't ideal. But this is what I would do about that. Now, we're getting into Paul's what goes below the fold now. And of course, what goes below the fold is whatever you want to put below the fold. But to make it more useful, this bit is above the fold. It's related notes. But it's not showing you all. You'd have to click in it and then be scrolling up and down to see them all. It would be much nicer if you could put in a linked database to the notes. There we go. And create a nice view for them. I'd probably make it a gallery view, just because I can do a preview of what's in the actual notes. But I'm seeing them all, and some of these may not be relevant. I think actually all of these are, aren't they? But what I would do to ensure, because this is what will happen. If I do that, at some point it is likely to break. Here's what will happen. I'll go back and I'll go to my notes and I'll add a note. And this note will be nothing to do with it. It'll be by Lola dog treats. It'll be the most important note of the week, obviously. But it's not related to that project. It'll be a household project or something else. So let's create a new page in projects for Lola. So basically, it's nothing to do with MacBytes. The issue is going to be when you look at the page that is MacBytes and you've put the notes gallery at the bottom, the By Lola Dog Treats is going to appear. So we need that not to be there. And to do that, in this table, you add a filter and you say where the project there contains, and in this case, it's after hours 61. And the Lola note disappears. So now you've got just your notes for this project, all of them, where you can see them, get to them, make notes, etc. So this one here, GTD Theory, I'd probably put something like start with David Allen's book, add the diagrams to slides. When I come out, I can see the beginning of my note. It's brilliant. I'd take that a step further because I'm likely to have other things in here as well, aren't I? If we actually looked at that, now that's next week's show. Let's look back at this week's show. This is driving this week's show. There's a lot of stuff in there. All of these. Together with all of the contents at the bottom, and then my full content list. There's a lot of stuff already in here. The last thing I want is to scroll down and think, oh no, now I'm bombarded with all of the notes. That's why I create a toggle, and I call the toggle notes. I could probably call it related notes. And then move that inside related notes. It disappears, but when I want to see the notes, I open it up, and there are all my notes. Right, what have we got here? Waiting on the people to get back to me, made a note while the work was completed. Shouldn't the status be in the individual to do? That's a tough call. It depends on how you're making the notes. If the notes are tiny, tiny notes, then they don't actually really need to be separate notes. I define notes. I have random notes that are the kind of notes you're talking about. But I also have notes that are notes on topics that I deep dive. So maybe a status would be whether it's a throwaway note or whether it's a deep dive note or something like that. I would probably do that a slightly different way, and as Paul's suggesting, is as a due date on it, and you can do that. So let's say I put on this Microsoft Edge one, get feedback from Mike, and I need to get feedback from Mike on there. Now, I must admit, I don't do this. which is what I'm struggling to find out where it is. Let me select it. Can I show this here? Not like that, you're not. Don't want that. Probably want that. Right. Remind me. Now, let's say that's saying tomorrow at 9. But I can click on that, and I've got a time in it. Let's get rid of that. That's it, hitting midnight. I've included a time in it. I've got a date. So what you could say is, if you're waiting for somebody and you expect to hear back by Wednesday, and you want to catch them before they leave the office if they've not been on to you already, then put on there sort of 3 o'clock, so 3 p.m. And that will then give you a reminder, so you could actually put that in. Do I recommend having a metadata link and a below the fold link with the disclosure triangle to be able to see all the related items? I do if it's important to you, and for things like notes it makes sense. For other things, less so. But if you want to interact, so if you've got a one-to-many relationship, you've got one MacBite show with 15 related topics, then I want to see all 15. I don't want to pass my eyes over the top bit and then think I've missed something. And that has actually happened, which is why I've put this system in. You can even see that you've got your reminder there reminding you, and you can see it. So I probably do it that way. Right, so we've got our notes in there in a really useful way. You can put anything else in there. But we are still missing one thing. I'm going to go right back. You remember last week when we talked about sexy stuff? Right. One of the things that I want to be able to do is, on a time-based system, be able to know what I worked on a certain day. The reason for this is I had a system. It was made by a guy called Hiram Smith, who his company got brought out. He was Franklin, and Covey merged with Franklin to become Franklin Covey. But this guy had a paper-based system that worked. And I bought them for 1 year. They were hugely expensive, but I had this paper-based system that worked. I could look at a month, a summary of the month, and all it was literally just, if you imagine those saying the dates down there, so it would actually look like the days. It just looked like that. But next to it, I had a list of what I did. So if you can imagine this here, right, 24th, Burns night. 25th, after hours. 26th, sleeping. Yeah, I had all of that available. And I wanted to replicate that. But it took me quite a while to think it through, because it's not as simple as you would imagine. In fact, to do that right now, I wouldn't be able to do it, because I have nowhere to put the events that I'm talking about, like Burns Night. But, simple enough, isn't it? Make a page, call it events, and I am literally doing this on the fly. Didn't intend to create this one. Right, I'll make that full width, go back and put a table in, and it's this fast. Inline tables in here, inline table. Is this fast to extend the system? I'm not being clever with the event titles or whatever. I'm just going to put events in. So one was Burns Night. Another was MacBites After Hours, wasn't it? It's After Hours 61. The reason it's in there as an event is because I want it to be hooked up to a day. What else did we do, Mike? Oh, there was North Cheshire's Ladies Evening last week. North Cheshire's Ladies Evening. Now, I do tend to put 2020 in it, and that would be Burns Night 2020. That's just me. Now, how can I hook that up to days? Well, that's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? Because just put a date on it, woman. You can't union the information. So, to get this hooked up with the rest of it, my events, my food, my meeting notes and my notes, I'm going to have to do some magic. But the beauty of it is, that's probably taken us about, 40 minutes? But the next bit is the magic glue, and it takes seconds to do. I'm going to start with the events, because it's easy. Right, an event obviously has a date, but not in there it doesn't. But it's not particularly the date of Burns Night that's going to be the magic glue. That won't help. I'll just know when Burns Night was by looking at it. The magic glue is to add a property, which is a relation from the days stroke journal thing. Journal days. There. Right, and in that put journal date. Journal day. Right, now, what day was it? It was the 25th. No, the 24th. It was the 24th. So let's put 24th. And there it is. Now it's wired up to that day. Don't need to do anything else with that. It's wired up. Right, when was that one? That was last week, which was it the 18th, Mike? Give me a date for that. It was a Saturday, wasn't it? Yeah. Right, so that was the 18th. Wire that one up. No, that's tonight. That's next week's. I've got these mixed up. Right, let's put that one in first. Let's get that one in. And then let's go back to this one, and this one's today. Now, you'll notice I don't have to take that one away before I add another one. So this is, it's actually the 26th now, but never mind. That was the 25th. Didn't happen on both days, though, did it? No, it didn't. So they're now right. By doing that, that's the magic glue. Let's go back over here. And now, if I go into my days and I pull this over, it says related to events. I change that to just say events. And as I look down the list, that was North Cheshire's Ladies' Night, that was Burns Night, and this is MacBites. But more than that, you can see on the 18th, which was a Saturday, I went to North Cheshire's Ladies' Evening. It was week 3. I also worked on the MacBites brochure. So when I open up that day, I can see exactly what I did that day. And that, to me, is where the power of the thing lies. I can look at one day and see all of the things that I did on that day. Or I would be able to if the whole lot was wired up together, which is the magic glue. So, probably makes sense to do it from the journal days end. Which is, let's open it up. What would I like to link to? Well, I'd like to know what notes I worked on. So, I could put related notes, but basically what I'm saying is, notes that I worked on this day, and notice that, worked on. Not created, worked on. And I would make that a relation. Come on. And it should be related to the notes one. Now select a database, notes, and it's that top one. Another one that I want to create is what meetings did I have that day? So I'll put meetings, but I'll relate that, remember, magic glue, magic glue, right? Meeting notes. Awesome. Now I've got 2 things. But what else would I have done that day? I would have eaten. So let's put down meals. And in the relation, go relate it to food. Did I call it food? Did I call it meals? No, I must have called it food. Because that's in the archive. There we go. Food. Create the relation. Now, I can tell you, I happen to know that on the 1st of January, we went out for a Brooklands breakfast. In fact, it was a brunch. And I had a full English. And that's how I can wire this up. Now, I didn't have any meetings that day, and I probably didn't have any related notes. But you can do this from any end. So let's go into my notes. And let's add a new note. And I was research for Boinks Photo Magico for iPad. That's what I was doing, and you've seen that note. It would have been for MacBites and it would have been for After Hours. And I went into it, and there was all sorts in that note. So if I'm going back to it on my other screen to find the note, to copy and paste the actual content in. So I'm opening up my notes. Here's my notes. It was that one. This probably isn't going to be the wisest thing I've ever done because these are videos. That one's not too big, actually. But I basically do this kind of thing. Copy it and then paste it into here. But, and this is where Kim might need to have a think about this. What I'm thinking of doing with it is I want to know the days, you see here related to days. I want to know the days that I worked on it. And there could be more than one. So the research for Boink started, it was the first week. So let's say it was the 7th I created the note. The status of the note, I'm not bothering with that one at the moment. Does it belong to a project? Well, if I have a look and there's a project and it's relevant to it, so maybe it's for After Hours. Maybe it's for that show. Then I can link it to that. That links it to a project. But the power to me is, if I'm sat there thinking to myself, I know I worked on that note. I can't remember what product I was researching, but I was waiting at the dentist. I remember it well. And I know I worked on it that day. Then all I need to do is look what day I went to the dentist and make sure that I've put in the dates here. And the dates could be more than one. So the date it was created was the 7th. So in my days in here, I would wire it up. Remember, magic glue. 7th of the 1st. But I also did more work on it on the 10th of the 1st. And I worked on it on the 25th. So let's put that one in. And I'm going to work on it on the 26th. And now I've managed to hook up, instead of having just one creation date, I've got all of the days that I worked on that. Beauty of that is, in here, I can see what days I worked on it. Did I have that shown? Where's my dates? Did I have, there we go, days. So the days at the end. I tend to move that up. So I've got my created date and the days that I worked on it. Obviously for this one, that's going to be the 31st. Let's put those in so we've got something to see. Oh, that was 2012, wasn't it? In that case, we'll take that away. Because I'm not tracking it that far back. I'm not going to have... Unless I put the date in the system, I'm not going to have that far back. So let's put that one in. Another one for the 25th. And what's the other one? 23rd. Right, magic glue. So I'm leaving the notes table behind and I'm going back to what I did on particular days. So I look at my journal and from in here I can see what events I attended, what projects I worked on, what actions I worked on, what meals I had, what meetings I had, and notes. What day did I work on what notes? When you're taking notes, you might not have a project to link it to, i.e. a specific MacBite show. It can be assigned to a project later. It can. What I would tend to do with it is assign it to an area. Otherwise, the note is literally just a note, kind of flying around, and it's not attached to anything, and that way madness lies. But you can leave it till later. You don't need to. Just get the information down in here and then hook it up as much as it makes sense to hook it up, but don't be a slave to the system. Doesn't matter. Good night, Johnny. Well done. Well done. You finish catching up tomorrow. Right, now one thing I haven't done with this so far, projects, actions, meals, meetings. You'll notice the meetings are blank, and that's not true. No, I actually did have some meetings, but we didn't wire it up. No magic glue. Yeah, Paul, I just don't like the concept of stuff lying around unattended. I'm the type of person who has, literally now, no joke, I have an untagged tag. And if I do a quick search and I find 20 notes in drafts that don't have a tag, I assign them the untagged tag. Sometimes I assign them untagged and a date. And then I will go through and I will sort them out. But the thing is, I'm diligent enough to go through and sort them out. So in here, I tend to have like an all-allocated project or something like that. But here's my meeting notes. And in the meeting notes, there's related to days. So let me put in journal days, so we know related in what way. And that one was on the 27th. Now, I might, with that one, have been thinking about that stand-up meeting the day before. And maybe I created it and I made some notes in it. So I put down both dates for that. Because we've got at the end action items, I may well have gone back into this on the 28th, the next day, to think, I'm sure I had something to do. What was it? So I can add that one in as well. Then, of course, there was the stand-up from the 25th, so that's definitely going to be the 25th. Same process, I might have referred back to that on the 26th. I might have looked back at it a week later. No idea. But if you've done that, let's say it is a week later, or maybe we knew something was coming up and we worked on it early, so maybe I worked on it on the 11th. I put something in there to, don't forget that. Could have done that. You do that with each one of these. So that's the one on the 26th. And you are using the underlying system that you've built and the magic glue together. Well, when was that one? Didn't see that one. 25th? 29th. 29th. So you're using the system and the magic glue, and now you can fly around your system. So if I go back from my meeting notes, and this is all leading up to building the ultimate dashboard, which I've built, and it's fabulous. It's amazing. Love it. I must admit, I'm far too excited with my dashboard. I can show you what this actually looks like in the journal, though, which obviously isn't the best one. But if I open up one of these, you can see what it's attached to. So I didn't take any notes. I didn't go to any meetings. But down here, when did we have a meeting? I'm sure we had one Thursday. No, not in here we didn't. But we did tonight. So open that one up. Loads going on today. There's a daily stand-up meeting. There was research notes. There was the edge notes. It's the week of then. I've got MacBites. This is how it starts pulling together. What that looks like, so that's it for magic glue, etc. We'll come back yet again. We've still got wrap-up bits to do on this, but I will show you what it can look like, because that's pretty good as far as it goes. The only issue I would say with that is it's not exactly as visual as it could be. But what mine actually looks like, let's get back into here. You've seen the bottom half of this. What it looks like at the moment is this. So I basically live in here or my week, the current week. Good night, Graham. I've got my management over here, which is all embedded pages. I've got links that I capture to, and I've got pages that's important that I get to. Then I've got my journal, which is very, very, very visual. So if we go into my journal, it's a gallery thing that's got photos on it, which I'm still working on. Right. And I've got links to all of the weeks, 4 weeks back and 4 weeks forward. So I can get to all of the weeks with one click. And that's an embedded table. I've got, that's not great, you can't see the other end of it, but there you go. You can when the screen's a bit bigger. Can I make it a bit bigger so you can see it all? Yeah, that's if I can make it a lot wider, because I've got my screen very small. You can see I have the date ranges next to it as well. And these are our retrospectives and our meetings. I've got a daily stand-up on the 25th. You saw me create that. We did the 22nd, 3rd, 4th. We've got a weekly sync on Sunday. We've got the monthly sync on the 28th. Another weekly sync on the 2nd. And we've got a retrospective about the Munich thing. So there's all the meetings and how they're pulled in. And they're pulled in based on a query, which is show me all the meetings where the date is on or after a month ago, or on or before a month from now. So I get a rolling 2-month meeting list, basically. Right, let's get that back to small and scroll down. Then I've got the active projects that are on deck at the moment. Then I've got all of the MacBite stuff that's important. Then I've got all of the stuff for Brooklands that's important. Now, this project thing up here is the old way I was doing it. And then down at the bottom, I've got all of the reference ones that open out into things like notes, meeting notes, etc. So the meeting notes ones are there. And you can see stuff that's crossed off. You've got these things in here to give you a guide as to what they are, which is why I like seeing them like that and why I like seeing my notes like that. But I can also, with this, apply sorting and filtering to it so I can see just what's relevant at that point. Right, we have questions. The weeks on the flight deck, are they based on a filter so you don't need to change it? So these WAG worksheets, yes, there's a filter applied. And it's exactly the same filter, I think. Although I've actually done that with dates on or whatever. I could change that. I put exact dates in because I wanted to see it from Monday the 30th up to the 1st of March. But I could just as easily do it the way I've done it in here with the filter, which is where the date is on or after 1 month ago and on or before 1 month from now. With weeks, I'd probably do it a rolling 4 months. No, 2 months. 2 months, isn't it? A month from now, which is 9, and a month back, which should be 1. So yes, they're based on queries, so I don't need to make a change every week, otherwise it would drive me insane. And yes, the meetings query is exactly the same, but they wouldn't have to be the same. One thing that ZenKit does is nest queries, and this doesn't nest queries. So if you have multiple things pulled in like that, you have to create the query for each one. But yes, they're based on queries, and they both happen to be similar queries, because that's the date range that I want. Right, any questions on that? We've gone long, haven't we? But we enjoyed that, I hope. I hope we enjoyed that. Magic glue. That's what we will call that, magic glue. So, that's my system. That's the one we've built. We are going to revisit that again yet again next week. I might do some views on it before then, because there's a couple more things we need to think about. Something that was mentioned tonight. But let's get rid of that, and let's go into there. Right, we have an unboxing. This is going to be fun. It's going to be fun because I can't actually see much at all because my machine's going crazy. I have a computer that's set up to supposedly broadcast this thing, but it's going crazy with itself. It's lost its internet connection. So that's why I couldn't see the chat. So I'm pushing that out of the way. Right, this is something that's not actually mine. You'll understand why when you see it. Do you want to pass it to me, Mike? And I'll make sure that you can see what's going on, which is the... Why is the webcam saying it's not there? Oh, come on. Why is the webcam saying it's not there? Oh, dear. No, it's got a question mark on it. So give me 1 second. I need to get past the microphone so I can actually plug this in. It was plugged in anyway, it didn't like it. Still saying it doesn't like it. Oh, it does, there it is. It's sprung to life. Now when I say sprung to life, it's a bit ropey. You seen the state of that mic? How does it look on YouTube? Because it looks mighty pixelated here. Very pixelated. Why are you so pixelated? Let's see if we can get that any better. No way to make that any better. That's appalling. Isn't it? Does it look as bad on YouTube?
I haven't got that yet.
It's getting there. I have no idea what's wrong with that. It normally works, and now it's not. It's bad, isn't it? Do you know what? I'm going to go with it anyway, because it's not a tech toy that you'll be like, oh, want. It's far more likely to be a tech toy that you'll be thinking, really? But it's Mike's, and he said I could open it. And you'll want to share it. It's sort of tech. It's just not my kind of tech. So let's get into it. It's definitely for Mike. It's for Mike and a friend of Mike's. Somebody he's very close with. There we go. Oh, look. You're wondering, aren't you? The excitement's palpable. Let me get rid of the box. That you're wondering. It is what you think it is. It's a vacuum part for a Henry vacuum cleaner. Other vacuum cleaners are available. Lola's molting, big style, while she plays with the chicken. So we've got this special thing, hopefully, to pick up all of the fur. We'll see how that works when we start doing it. The one we've got, we probably broke that with Maya, didn't we? So this is a new one. So it's sort of tech, isn't it? But not really my kind of tech. But hopefully it'll work. The Henry ones were about £40 and this was £12. So we've gone for cheap at the moment to see, by comparison, how is it with the Henry. But that's all tech. Not exciting, is it? It's something that I have to hand over to Mike. Now you're wondering, aren't you? You're thinking, poor Mike. Poor Mike has to back up. But there is a reason for this, isn't there, Mike? He's forgotten.
Because you're allergic.
I am allergic to the vacuum cleaner. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous, but before you scoff, I really am. We bought a vacuum cleaner, and they're all plastic these days. And I got an electric shock off it twice. So we took it back and explained, and they swapped it, and the same thing happened again. So we got onto the manufacturer. And they'd never actually heard of it, but once I'd put that online, other people came forward and said they're the same. So if I were to use it, I'd have to use rubber gloves. So it was decided that I didn't have to play with the vacuum cleaner. It wouldn't be safe. Mike does it. So he's not allergic to the vacuum cleaner. I am allergic to the vacuum cleaner. So there you go. Vacuum tech, which I am now actually handing over to Mike. He's thrilled.
Yeah.
Let's get back to my desktop because that's shocking quality. No idea what's gone on there with that. No idea at all. Right, I need to see the chat, and I cannot see the chat in the laptop view. So where's that? That's what I need. I need to see that. So in the meanwhile, I'll make sure that we'll wrap up with the other thing first. That's probably a better idea. While you ask any questions that you've got. Right. Where are we at? A lot more homework to do. Hopefully that's fully explained how to do the week view, though. I mean, you can take any of these views as far as you like. I will show you my live system. We're going to run out of blocks, I think, on this demo account if I put in everything that's in my live system. But I will show you my live system as far as I can take it. And then I'll use the demo account to actually build individual things for what the month looks like. The month will have... That will be the database view of the month. But within a month, so within January, there's nothing below the fold at the moment. And I'd be building things in below the fold. So we'll do all of that as well. There'll be lots to see, promise. Right, so let's get back into here and then I will take the questions. Right, next week. It's Saturday next week. That's been on and off on Friday and Saturday, but we decided in the end, although the thing on Friday got cancelled, we should probably leave it on Saturday. Lest the thing on Friday appear again and then we have to change it. So next week, Saturday, which I know is easy for some people and not as easy for others. Apologies, but that's the way it falls. We love you guys. If you love us guys, can you give us a like? It really helps. There are two ways to keep up to date with what's going on. If you want the dibs on everything that I do, which is kind of app related, but not the podcast, then that's elainegiles.com/VIP. All of the podcast stuff, including what we do in After Hours, is available from macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail. And of course, where you really want to be is where the cool kids are, which is in Slack. I've now replaced the generic marketing stuff with pictures from our Slack. So there's Kim and I discussing, trying to set up the Notion homework. There's my desk. That was getting ready for last week's show. So it works on mobile, works on an iPhone, iPad and Android, and desktop app as well. So there's us all chatting away in there. So if you are not with us in Slack, you need to be. You need to go to macbites.co.uk/Slack. Or you can point and press at the QR code and that will take you to the same place. So do come and join us. We have a fabulous, fabulous time in there carrying on the conversation. So I'm going to come out of that at that point. I'm going to leave you with... why isn't that in there? Interesting. What I will do is I will move to there, go to there, into there and leave you with our contact details, which includes the Slack room while I look at all of these questions. Can I do it all again? Do you mean do it all again? Glad you enjoyed it, Kim. Right, let's have a look what's going on in this chat. Now the chat's disappeared, now the chat's back. Yeah, I've no idea what's wrong with the webcam tonight. It's in a mood. It does that every now and then. But hey, everything else worked, and fingers crossed we're still broadcasting it. So excellent, excellent. Nasty sounding cough. Was that my cough or your cough, Mike?
Mine.
Yeah, Mike's still got a cough. How many you'll go through instead of the Henry? That's the thing. The Henry can be replaced piece by piece, can't it? It's unbelievable, the Henry. And my dad had a Hetty, a pink thing. And all the parts off that work on ours as well. So, yeah, we keep up with the Henry. Easy for Saturday. Good. Glad it works for you. Glad it works for you. We try to keep it to a Friday, just for consistency's sake, really. But sometimes I would say we have more things to do on a Saturday, but that's not worked out that way at the moment, has it? But yes, next week's going to be a Saturday, and I think the week after that is back to a Friday. That's the idea anyway. So any more questions? Any more questions about anything tonight? While I ponder what I'm going to treat myself to after a mega length show. Mike's looking. I wonder if your white Toblerone's calling. No, is it too close to bedtime? Too close to bedtime for Mike's Toblerone. That'll be tomorrow then. Yes, he'll probably have that for breakfast before I'm up. I may well partake of a little ice cream before bed, is what I'll say. So Saturday's better because of the drive home. Remind me where you're based. Is that Ohio?
Ohio.
I was going to say, I thought it was Ohio. Your brain's full. Yes, I can imagine that. You're going to go and look at your Notion setup, aren't you, through different eyes? And you will be uttering the mantra, magic glue. What can I attach to what? For me, it's working great, but I keep changing my system. Mike despairs of me. I changed my system to make it easier. I mean, one thing that we've changed is all of the... I remembered well, Ohio. One of the things I changed on the MacBytes page was embedding all of the comms in it, which has actually made things a lot easier, but it didn't stop Mike rolling his eyes when I mentioned it. Good night, Alex. So we're going to head off and have some ice cream then. Oh, 4 p.m, that's not good, is it? So, what, 5-hour time difference? Kim, you can always go back and re-watch, and you're in Slack. So questions, anytime. Just put them into Slack. Now what we got next time? Oh, loads next time. We've got... I can mention this, because he's not here at the minute, but we have something special next week from Johnny I. We may have something special from Helen. Who knows? So, lots of things to think about next week. I also didn't get to show you the bulb toy, so I'll show you the bulb toy next week. Mike, make a note of the bulb toy. Having teased you with it this week, I will get round to it next week, I promise. And probably my flight deck will look different than it does right now. But I'm loving it. It means I can actually hide the navigation on the left and I don't miss it, because I've got links to everything that I'm working on. But we'll talk about that in a future show. So, I'm going to have some ice cream. Mike's probably not going to have ice cream. Unless he might have ice cream. What do you think? No. He's being a good boy and giving me the evil. But never mind, I intend to have some ice cream because I'm wide awake and I will be going to bed a little bit later. So, it's good night from me.
It's good night.
You're going to have to shout louder than that, Mike.
It's good night from me.
We will both see you next time. Good night, folks.